All right. So, hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I'm here talking about how to study audiology in the US with four audiologists from India in the US right now. So, I'll start off by talking to Ishan sir. So, Ishan sir is an associate professor at Iowa College of Liberal Arts and Science in the CST department. So, I'd like to ask him where he did his bachelor's and master's first.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. I did my bachelor's and master's from Aliyawarjung National Institute, Mumbai, and I started my bachelor in 2004 and completed in 2008, and then started my master in 2008 and completed it in 2010. So um, that was a yeah.
All
So
right.
the entire journey is in Mumbai, Aliyawarjang. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So then, what was your journey like after master's?
In 2010, I started my PhD at University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And I was investigating noise-induced hearing loss and tinnitus, and my subject was in the genetics aspect. So I was trying to investigate the genetic basis of these complex conditions. And I was fortunate to work with clinical audiologists, with geneticists, with biostatisticians, and bioinformatic people to kind of there was a team that was trying to investigate the genetic basis of music-induced hearing loss, and so I did my PhD in that, and I graduated in 2013.
Oh, okay, okay. So then after 2013, what is your role? What are you currently doing?
Yeah, so in 2000, I graduated in December of 2013, and then I joined Northern Arizona University up in Flagstaff, Arizona, as an assistant professor. Then that's where I established my own lab, investigated the genetic basis of tinnitus, and after a while, I got my tenure, but then I decided to move here to University of Iowa, and I moved here right at the beginning of pandemic, so in 2020, and I'm here as an associate professor doing my research in genetic basis of hearing loss and tinnitus.
Oh, okay, all right. That's interesting. Okay, so then I'd like to talk to Ms. Soumya. So can you tell me about where you did your bachelor's and master's?
Yeah, so I did my BASLP in Bharati Vidyapit, Pune, and then I did my MASLP at Nair Hospital, Mumbai, and then I worked for 2 years as an audiologist and more as an audiologist and some speech patients in Mumbai itself. And then I came to the University of Iowa, where Ishan is right now, for my PhD. And then I realized that with only PhD, I cannot work clinically in the US, so I cannot see patients. So I added on the AUD degree, and luckily it all worked out. So I graduated with my AUD PhD last year, and
Oh, okay.
I just joined as an assistant professor in California State University, Sacramento.
Oh, all right. So AU, PhD and then AUD. That's an interesting combination.
Yeah, so I kind of did both together, like a
Okay.
combined AUDP. Yeah.
Oh, all right, all right. Okay. So what is your current role?
So currently I'm an assistant professor and I'm doing teaching, research, and also doing some clinical supervision for students.
Okay, okay, all right. So next I'd like to talk to Ms. Savitha. So can you tell me about where you did your bachelor's and master's?
Yeah, I did my bachelor's degree at Sri Ramchandra University, so that's in Chennai. And then I directly went over and did my AUD in Indiana University, which is in Indiana. And then worked for a couple of years there and then came.
Okay. So currently, can you tell me about where you are?
So currently I'm back in Chennai. Like I said, I worked for a year and a half-ish, and then I moved back here. Right now, I'm working for a private practice in Chennai. I started off part-time because I recently just moved, and now I'm shifting that into full-time. So yeah, I'm at private practice. I'm still trying to find out like where audiologists are, or someone with an AUD, like how I can fit in. So that's been exciting and fun.
Okay.
But right now I'm in third practice.
All right. That's an interesting journey coming back to India. So that's
Mhm.
something we'd like to talk about more. Next, I'd like to talk to Mr. Bhanu. So can you tell me where you did your bachelor's and master's?
So I did my bachelor's from Swikarupka, that's in Hyderabad, and then I did my master's from AYG and IHH Secunderabad. And after completing my master's, I joined Burnafone Hearing Aid for a year, and then I didn't like it. And I had a plan of doing PhD since my bachelor, so I was like, okay, let's try for PhD. So I started preparing for PhD and started working as a assistant professor. There's a college in Haryana. I don't know whether it still exists or not. I don't know. So
Okay.
it's like RPIIT. I did teaching there for 1 year, and then I got my PhD uh, quite several places. So I chose to come to US, and I did my PhD in um, speech perception and different noises. And after my PhD, I got assistant professor job, but I wanted to learn more about uh, electrophysiological recordings and animal research. So I joined as a postdoc at University of Pennsylvania, and currently I'm working um, on understanding the auditory processing in monkeys.
Oh, okay, okay. Pretty interesting. So I think one good thing is we have people from all different, current settings here. So let's start off with the questions. So the first part of the questions would be talking about AUD versus PhD because that's a very common thing people are confused about. What exactly AUD is or what exactly PhD is. So first question is, if somebody wants to pursue their education in the US after Masters of Audiology in India, what is the first step they should look at?
See, it totally depends on what you want to do. See, if you want to be a researcher, you want to do research, then PhD is the option. I mean, like AUD doesn't make any sense. Like Soumya is wanted to be clinical as well. So if you want to be a clinical plus PhD, then you have to have a AUD degree in order to
Okay.
work both clinically. And being an international student, if you have only PhD, it's very hard to get tenure job because they require certification, and you cannot get certification unless you have AUD. So it depends on what you want to do. If you want to be a clinical, just go for AUD. If you want to be only a researcher, go for PhD. If you want to be both together, then you have to do both together.
Okay.
And it's not mandatory that after masters, I mean, like if you have already done masters from India and then you're doing AUD, it's just you're doing the same thing twice.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah,
you,
it's the same curriculum. It's the same curriculum, but I mean, Ishan sir might tell you better because he knows much more than me. I'm just a newbie, or Soumya. But what I saw in my institute, that if you were like, as a PhD, I took all the courses that I took during my master's, and I took all the courses with AUD students, and that was the required courses for them. So in US, it's totally different. You do your bachelor's with any degrees, and then you wanted to go in a particular field, then you can just directly join and do a 4 year degree and then get go.
okay. So can Ishan sir give me a little bit more information on this also? Because so AUD is pretty similar to masters in audiology is what you would say.
Yeah, I would go a little bit further on that topic. Everything Bhanu said is absolutely true. I would say that most of the thing that you learn in AUD degree program is basically what you learn in bachelor. So in India, the terminating degree is a term that we use to say after the degree you get licensure to work in the states, or where you are, you have the ability to work independently. That is called terminating degree in any professional
Okay.
field. So terminating degree in India is a bachelor's degree. That means after bachelor's degree you will get your licensure to practice as a clinical audiologist or and speech language pathologist. Here, that terminating degree for speech language pathology is a master's degree, and for audiology, it's AUD degree, clinical doctorate in
Mm-hmm.
audiology.
Okay.
So you need to be very careful when you are thinking about audiology, field in America, because when you're thinking about clinical orientation, your life being a clinical audiologist, you would like to see patients, you would like to provide clinical services. To make that happen, you need to have terminating degree. Okay. Now, I'm saying terminating degree voluntarily because I'm not using AUD at this point. So hear this thing out. So terminating degree in America that we traditionally use is audiology clinical doctorate AUD degree. But that's not how ASHA defines terminating degree. You can have PhD, so you can have a doctoral degree. You can take all the required courses in clinical audiology as put forward by the accreditation body that you need to require for AUD program. So if you are a PhD student, you take all the PhD AUD courses, then you can still apply for your clinical certification. So AUD degree is a terminating degree for most, but it can, for example, for me, when I did my PhD, I took all the other classes and required all the, fulfill all the requirements for the fourth year externship, and then I got my clinical certification and state licensure, and I don't have AUD. So that's a very important distinction that people have to make. AUD degree is a terminating degree, and PhD is um, you might be able to work as a clinical audiologist if you have PhD, but there are some very important catches that I will address throughout. But main idea here is that audiology degree, AUD degree, is the terminating degree for the most part. Let's
Okay.
go with that, and I'll talk about few things a little bit later.
Okay. If anybody else wants to add to this?
I just wanted to say, like, just like Mr. Bhanu mentioned, you can do AUD right after BASLP. You do not need your master's degree. And like they've said, it does cover pretty much the same. The main difference between the Indian master's degree and the US AUD that I found, when I compared like course curriculum and things like that, AUD you do more extra clinical courses, like there are separate courses for tinnitus or noise-induced hearing loss or pharmacology. So those are all additional courses that you won't necessarily have in your MASLP. And then you have that externship, which is a huge clinical portion that you don't get with the traditional MASLP in India or MSc Audiology in India.
Okay. So AUD degree is a 2-year degree?
AUD, the one that I did was the accelerated version. The traditional program is 4 years, so 3 years of academics plus 1 year of externship. A lot of colleges are currently switching over to that accelerated program, which is 3 years, and that is 2 years of academics plus 1 year of externship. And you still do a couple academic courses during that externship year.
Okay. And during the 2 years of academics, you don't have any clinical postings at all?
You do have clinical postings from there as well. From your first semester, you'll have you'll start off with observation, and then eventually they'll kind of increase the amount of time you're in the clinic through the program. At least that was how it was for me.
Okay, all right. So what I've understood right now is that after bachelor's, you can go for an AUD. Doing it after master's is just like an added on thing, right? So most people from India who've done their BASLP can, if their aim is to work clinically as an audiologist in the US, they can do an AUD. So can anybody tell me about what is the qualifications you need to apply for an AUD?
So, like if they want to do only AUD, then they can apply after bachelor's. So you need to do bachelor's basically.
Okay.
I don't know if there is a requirement to do bachelor's in speech and hearing. Maybe Savitha, yeah, probably not, right? Yeah. And then you have to we look at GPA. So what's your GPA for their undergrad or bachelor's?
Okay.
And then you go to the university's website and you'll have the different requirements that you need. And that includes they will need letters of recommendation. They'll need to submit like a statement of purpose. Some people require a video essay. that kind of a thing. And I think that should be, yeah, maybe Savitha can tell more because she
I think
applied
I
for AUD.
wrote like the English exam TOEFL and then
Oh,
you
okay.
read your GRE. Other than that, I think she covered everything.
It's a pretty
So
much same for like other courses. Okay, go ahead.
please go
Okay,
ahead, Bhanu.
it's pretty much sure like other courses, whether you're coming for like engineering or whatsoever. It's the same procedure. It's not like different in terms of admission. The general requirement is still same for everyone. GMAT, GRE, TOEFL, whatever is required, like statement of purpose, GPA 3.0. It's the same procedure, but yeah, it's the same. It's nothing
So,
different that much.
okay. And the GRE TOEFL scores, it depends on whatever university you choose.
Yes.
Okay.
So
So the
yeah,
cutoff, sorry, go ahead.
what I was saying is that many universities are moving away from GRE requirement, and we are just dropping it, completely. There are multiple reasons behind that, but so TOEFL is required at this point for the international students, or TOEFL equivalent is required. You need to check with a specific program that you are applying for specific requirements. Now, some universities would allow you to submit your transcript that you get from, Indian universities. And most of the time, that transcript is not quite reader friendly um, to the American audience. So because of that, it would be meaningful to apply to world educational services or equivalent, services out there, convert your transcript into American equivalent, and then send that transcript along with your regular transcript. That is more informative, and that usually goes in the favor of the student.
Oh, okay, okay. That is interesting. I didn't know about that. Okay. So I think this was mainly the thing. So AUD and PhD, as we all discussed, I think the main difference was that clinical versus research. I also wanted to know, so when you're doing AUD, like how in masters we have to do a research project or a thesis. Is that a requirement in AUD as well? Yes,
I think it is very specific to which university you're in. I know a lot of programs do have like a capstone project or like some type of research involved. Mine did had zero research. I did not have to do any kind of research as a requirement to graduate with an AUD. So I think it's very university specific.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it
think
depends on like. Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
it depends on, like, I think a lot on if it's a 3-year or a 4-year program. A lot of the 3-year programs, I think, don't have the research component.
Okay,
And
okay.
the 4-year programs, it still depends on the university. But the research project is also like what kind of research project an AUD student needs to do also depends on the university. So it may be a more clinical research project, maybe allowed in some universities, like Iowa allowed, really gave a lot of freedom in what you want to do as your research project. So it doesn't have to be like, it's not very similar to a PhD project. It's like a smaller version of a research project. It could be very clinical. Like I know people who have done, they've looked at clinical databases and done a review, that kind of a thing, or just related to outreach activity, how like turned that into a research project. So it can be very clinical. So if students are applying for an AUD university that requires a research project, I mean, you don't have to be worried that it's going to be like a lot of research, and if they don't want, they are not interested in research,
Okay,
it can be
okay.
pretty. It can also be a systematic review in a lot of places. Yeah, so
Okay, okay. You wanted to add anything else, Banu?
No, I was just about to say the same thing. It depends on the universities. Like my
Okay.
previous university was totally research-based university, so everybody were mandatory to do research. Any kind of research, whatever you like to do. Like people in my lab, like we had like 7 AOD students, and everybody had their own ideas to do the research. And it's not like that the idea will be given by professor or anybody else. You just have to come with your own idea. You want it to do, they will support you, they will fund you if it is required money, and you can do it. And they not force you, but they suggest you to publish also. So most of the research in my lab were published by AUDs also.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to, so agreed on everything. One additional point that I feel like, is worth noting is um, clinical doctoral program are accredited by a specific body, which is a kind of a, semi-independent body of ASHA, CAA. And, those programs which say that they are doctoral program, they require some level of research, some level of research involvement. Now, the way they are going to define the research involvement, research piece, varies by different program. So, it can vary a lot. You can maybe, I've seen program where they just have like a 1 credit hour, research affiliation with, a didactic faculty member, or it can vary a full-fledged AUD project that you have to collect data and then you have to publish. So it varies a lot. So it would be very important for any aspirant of, someone who would like to pursue AUD to really critically review the program itself before applying. And if they think that, this is not really a good fit for, things that you are planning to do, then you need to have a proactive mindset about, what are the requirements and what things I need to do. Um, Most of the programs have their, requirement pretty much laid out on their website, so it's worth noting that, and just going through each and every, program that you're applying, and noting what they require. If something is, not clear, you are always encouraged to, reach out to the program, and they're usually pretty good with replying, with a specific answer. So yeah, I would definitely encourage someone, if they have dilemma about, this point is not clear, please feel free to reach out to programs. We are here for supporting, people who are interested in pursuing AUD.
Okay, that's a good point because a lot of people just apply, but they don't know what they need to look for. So this would come at the one point which things you need to look out for prospective universities if you want to do your AUD. Any other points you can think of which you need to look out for? Because I think we mentioned the 3 year versus 4 year and the research program, how heavy it is on research base. Anything else students need to look out for when they're selecting their AUD university or program? I think Soumya can talk about this.
Yeah, so like I would advise going to a program where there is a hospital attached to the university that gives like a lot of clinical experience that you can get when generally when there is a hospital in the university, the department probably has a connection with the hospital. So you have audiologists working there, so you can observe those settings. And I think that's very good exposure to have when you're doing an AUD. The other thing is you can look at the rankings of the programs in this like US and I don't remember what the website, US News, I think. Yeah. So I mean, you can look at it if you have like multiple options. You have multiple places that have accepted you, and then you can look at what program is more prestigious. That being said, like I have seen audiologists from less known programs who are like really good audiologists. So I feel like it depends a lot on the student as well. So, I mean, any student, if they are good enough, they can shine through any program. But yeah, that is another thing to look out for.
So
yeah, in terms of
shared...
like, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead, no problem.
So one thought that I had is that, ASHA has a very interesting web page called ASHA AdFind. Now, I usually advise my students that they should go through this, and ASHA AdFind, a web page, can lead you to a specific program, and you can look at the overall educational profile of individuals who were accepted in the program, and you can also look at the GPA range that these programs are accepting. So that is
Okay.
number one, that you should definitely have a look into it. Sometimes you have unrealistic expectations about a program. You might have, like, let's say 2.5 GPA, and you apply for program, you're not going to get selected. So and sometimes you just feel like, well, whether my GPA is appropriate enough for this program because US rank is so high. So that's something to look out. The other thing that you can do with Asha, I'd find, is you can look at how many number of individuals were accepted with funding. And I understand that many of Indian students require funding. It's not a requirement, but many of us seek funding, and that's one important aspect of getting accepted into the into the AUD program. So you can find that kind of information there. You can also find that web page also provide how many grants application are accepted, what are the money, and what are the amount of publications or different areas that this specific program has, um, as far as the experts are concerned. So you need to look at those things. For example, if you're interested in, let's say, vestibular rehabilitation, probably number one university or number two university and number three university might not have the exact clinical experience package that you're interested in. Maybe someone 15, 16, 17 rank might have a very good package suitable for you. So a proactive student is likely to kind of go through all these things and then select the program that um, suits best for his or her interest. It's individualization, in other words.
That's pretty important because the top university might not be the right one for you. So that's an important thing, which I'll add the links in the description so people can go through that. You wanted to say anything, Banu? You wanted to add anything to this?
Yeah, I was just wanted to add about the clinical exposure thing that Soumya said. I mean, like it's very good to know that the program has the hospital attached to it, or within the hospital setup, as well as if you go to their website, they will list out all the uh, hospitals they deal with. So it's not like only one hospital. They
Okay.
deal with several hospitals, and you get the posting, base. You get the rotation. So I knew the universities where you have to drive for 2 hours to go to the hospital to do your clinical things. So it's
Okay.
everything written on their website. If you go see thoroughly, you can get each and every information. It's out there.
All right. Okay. So these externships would be that where they have to go for a whole day and they would have a supervisor for the clinical part, right?
And you get paid also.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So there are internships which are like placements that audiology students are posted at during their 3-year the coursework that Savitha was saying, that there are some placements even during when you're
Okay.
doing your coursework. So those are called internships because they are during the curriculum. So that is where they would get placed in like the hospitals, or like Bhanu was
Okay.
saying, different places that the university has a connection with. And then your last year, the 4th-year externship or 3rd-year externship in case of 3-year programs, that is slightly different. That is kind of like applying to a job. So students can choose any placements that they are interested in based on their area of interest or based on the location that they want to be in. So most of the universities allow different places in the US. Some universities also allow you to go abroad and do this placement.
Okay.
So it just depends on the university. But this is like that 1-year experience. So that's called the externship, where you're the whole year you're in that one place that you choose.
Okay.
But also you apply to different places and you interview, you send in your application materials, your CV, whatever the site demands. So it's kind of like applying to a job, but it's a part of the AUD program. So they
Okay.
have to do an externship.
So you would have a supervisor there also?
Yes.
All right.
So it depends on, so you have to have a supervisor, but it's kind of like taking you towards independent practice. So initially you have a lot of supervision when you just start out, and then later on they try to reduce that supervision, because after 4th year you'll be independently practicing. So it's kind of getting you ready for that.
Okay, all right. Okay. So
The best part of AUD I like here is by the time you finish your 3rd year, you are, much more independent than what you think. I mean, like the way people deal here with the cases, the way they teach, the problem solving skills and all those thinking things, it's like you're almost ready. Externship is just to, refine you more, and then you can go into the field. And getting internship is also not an easy task. It's the kind of applying for a job. You give interview, you get rejected. It's not like that you just went, okay, I have a degree, give me internship, they will give you externship. No, it's not like that. It's like a pure fight, because everybody is applying at the same time. It's not like in India you went, okay, I want to do an externship, they will give you a chance to do. No, it's not like that. It's a full-time job, and they pay you well actually. So it's quite difficult also.
Okay. So I also want to know a little bit more. Tell me.
So some externships are paid and some are not paid, and how well they are paid is also very variable. So with some externships, I've heard that they give you like accommodation for free, but they don't pay you anything. And some externships they just don't pay you at all. So students here take out loans generally for that if they are not paid, and then they just add on to those loans for their externship as well. But there are externships that are paid, and those are more competitive. So like Bhanu was saying, it's really not easy. It's kind of like, again, preparing you to apply for a job the year after externship. So you apply for, so the ones that like the externships that are really good, and they have I always advise students to go for externship where you get experience with all aspects of audiology, because you never know what you want to do in the future, right? Like your mind may change. So you don't want to do something that's like very specialized, and then you realize that, oh, actually I wanted experience with something else.
Yeah.
So, but those externships are also very competitive, because everyone wants to have exposure with everything and with experience. So the paid and the ones that provide exposure to all aspects are more coveted and are also more competitive. So yeah, but and the pay also varies, just depending on. So I tell students that if that is of priority to you, that you need to get paid, then just apply to all externships where they pay you.
So it depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah, again, that's more competitive. So it's a balance.
Okay. So I thought we'll talk about this here only. How the teaching methods are different, like you said, in AUD compared to how it is in India for masters or so. Can anybody talk about it? Maybe Savitha can talk about it.
Yeah, so the academic portion, in my experience, I feel like there's not much of a difference. I feel like the teaching methods is very like person dependent. Everyone has their own way and style of teaching. So that way, Indian teaching versus US teaching is pretty much on par in my experience. Clinical supervision wise, there is a huge difference. Again, my own experience, but I feel like in India, they kind of throw you in the well and expect you to kind of learn how to swim. So that is the kind of teaching that they do here. And then in the US, it was like I was working with an individual supervisor. So when I am seeing patients, I would have one AUD with me the entire time, looking at what I'm doing, telling me how I can make things better. And it was very, not really like a hierarchy relationship. It was very like, you're learning, I'm here to teach you. So there is like respect in how it was done. And you're not learning from your seniors like you typically do in an Indian place. You're learning from an actual AUD person who has practiced and come back. So that, and then you have exams. They'll check your proficiency. Like, how are you doing the testing? Are you telling the patient all the instructions, or are you doing all of the processes that you need to do? Are you skipping anything? So there's like a box to check things up. Like to give you an example, in one of my exams. It was my very initial exams, and I had been seeing patients here, so I was kind of used to that. But then they had a column for like, did she ask the patient to take their glasses off? Did she ask the patient to take their earrings off before putting the headphones? So
Wow.
that was part of what was being graded.
Okay.
So they check you at every single stage. Whenever you learn a clinical skill, you have a practical exam for it with like a fake patient or a real patient sometimes, and then they score you. So I felt like that structure, and the way that they do it is it may sound intense and overwhelming, but you actually learn the right way of doing things instead of what is passed down from like your seniors.
Yeah, I'll share two incidents what happened with me during my coursework. So Savitha said that it's totally different by professor to professor and institution to institution. In my previous school, uh, they were like, it's not like they will throw you into the water and make you swim. It's like they will go into the water with you and make you swim, like that condition. And it's not like that you are scared of them. If you don't understand any concept or anything, you just go to them directly and ask them. They will explain you unless you get it. So I was writing my exam, and it was what do you call diagnostic audiology.
Okay.
So there was a question, I wrote wrong answer. So the answer was wrong for the question but was right for the other question.
Okay.
Right, so it was the right answer, the concept was right, but the for the current question it was wrong. So I got 70% of the marks, not zero, for that question. So I asked my
Okay.
professor, if it is wrong, why did you give me score? She was like, it is wrong for the question, not for the concept. You know the concept, but you forgot to apply where it was supposed to be. So I have to give you marks because you know that. Unlike in
Okay.
India, if you written wrong, they will just deduct your marks.
Yes.
And also, if you're writing your answers and you know the concept, but you're not able to put on words or something, they will not charge you for that. They will not say anything bad or deduct your marks. So it encourages you to do more rather go back and okay, no problem. Anyway, she's not gonna give me marks, so why should I give a shit? It's not like that.
Okay.
And the homeworks what they give is like awesome. I'm like, they make you think about the patient. They will give you a hypothetical patient, and they will ask you what kind of test do you want to apply, what hearing aids and what not, everything. And it's designed in a such a way that it will more generate your critical thinking and problem solving skills than just copying pasting anything. So it's not like that they give you uh, homework and you just went on Google and typed everything, you got it from chat gpt or whatever whatnot. It's like you have to apply your own brain and write it down. If it is wrong, you can go and ask them. They will explain you each and everything. If you fail, they will not fail you. They will give you another
Okay.
chance to rectify it, try to find the correct solution and come with the answer. I don't know much about clinical practice because I have never been to that since I was a PhD student, but I have seen they do a lot of good work. Like, you have a supervisor who will take care of each and everything. He or she will teach you each and every aspect. And by the time you finish your third year, because you have to write your praxis exam, and praxis
Mm.
exam is not like a theory based question. It's a practical based question. They will give you case, you have to write the answer and justify your uh, arguments. So that's why they prepare in that way so that you can uh, learn things fast.
Okay. That's very interesting. Anybody else wants to add to this? The teaching, this, yes.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the working culture. The working culture of America is different than it is in India. And you can take that aspect and apply all the good things that you experience here in America. And then, you can also argue the same that there might be some good aspects of Indian system. And, it's a balancing act. Ultimately, students need to know that they are dealing with a specific personality when they are in the in that situation. So yes, system is set up in such a way that it would be it would do justice to everybody. That's our hope. But again, it's an individual thing, and you need to adapt to this system if you come here in order to get the best out of it. That makes sense.
I thought we'll just cover a little bit about PhD because we've spoken about AUD and then we'll come back to it. So can you tell me if you're applying for PhD, what should you look at? What should you think about? I think Bhanu can talk about this.
So when I started looking for PhD, I know nothing. I didn't know anything. So I took, help from my seniors, whoever I knew. So I don't know how other people did, but I started preparing for my PhD long back when I was in bachelor. So I started doing some kind of research in the university, started presenting those work in the conferences, and tried to publish it also in Indian journals. And when I shifted to Delhi to do all the preparation for my PhD admission. And like one of your question was like, do you have to go through consultancy and all those things? So they don't know anything about PhD because they don't get money
Correct.
from the universities sending students. So you have to do, I mean, Google is there. You can Google everything and you can get each and every uh, information. So I did pretty much on my own. First of all, I had like, you should have research interest, what you want to do. It's not like that you just go and choose any research area. It's not like that. You should have at least some basic understanding of what you want to do, what you understand better, and then you start searching the professor that first of all institute and the professor that does the same thing what you do, what you're interested in, and then you contact with them. If they like you, they will take it from there. I mean, like they will guide you each and every step. But the basic requirements, like everybody said, GRE and all those things are normal. You have to do. That's the basic requirement. But in terms of research, you should have some ideas, or then you approach people. Then if they like you, they will give you opportunity to apply. Then you apply. Then you have to go through all the interview process. If you're applying like European countries, they have video interviews first, then normal interview. If you're applying here, some few people like video interviews, some like normal interviews. It's like a couple of times interview, and then when you get selected, then you come for your PhD.
Okay, so I think most important thing here is having a research question or a area is important. You can't just be like, I'm going to do PhD and just go ahead, right?
Yeah, at least basic understanding of what you want to do, and if it is not clear also in your mind what you want to do in future, but you know that this is area what I like, why I understand much better, then you choose that area. I mean, like I have seen people come from without any interest, but then they did PhD and they changed their field. But they
Okay.
came with the understanding of something that they knew, and then they joined that lab that does the same thing. And then later on, it's research is not about a broad topic; it's just a very narrow topic. So you come with a broad area, broad understanding, and then you do work, and then you understand a specific point, and then you go. Like I like speech perception, but speech perception is a very broad area. So I find myself that I understand much more in a noisy situations and more of clinical population than research based. So I just went in that way.
Okay, okay. Anything else you want to add, Ishan sir or Soumya here for
Uh, yeah, so I just wanted to say that PhD is a lifestyle choice. Okay. You need to, first of all, ask this question to yourself. Is this good enough for you? Is PhD is a lifestyle choice in a sense that you're going to be, you know, you're going to be involved with your subject that you would never be involved if you are working as a clinician. Just because you need to get into the depth of the subject, you need to evaluate things, you are likely to face pushback. You will submit papers and they are going to be rejected. People will constantly tell you that you're wrong and this is not the right way of doing it. Do you have what it takes to be successful? And is PhD a good path for you? That's the question that that person needs to first of all think about. The other thing that I would suggest strongly people think about is why United States when you have many different options, and that applies to AUD as well. Why United States? This might be, you might have a person for whom this specific country would be, like, let's say, a very beautiful choice, extremely fit, good fit for what your interests are. And for some specific interest, you might not have United States as the best fit. You might have something else. And if you don't be proactive about it, you will realize that after 10 years, spending 10 years in United States, and then you'll find, okay, there might be some other options there. So you would like to, think about Australia, European countries, Canada, America, put all those things together, and then, think about which is the best option for me and why. Right? So that's a thing that you need to do with this. The other thing is that there's a big myth about PhD is that you pursue your PhD from a specific university. You don't. You pursue your PhD with a specific person, your advisor. You only work with your advisor, and that person guides you throughout the process. It's fundamentally different than AUD degree, right? So you're not going to an institution. Typically, of course, in theory, you are going to an institution, but you work for most of the part to a specific person. Do you feel that the work that your advisor has been doing, do you have genuine interest in that field? Right? Genuine interest. Because things can get tricky in PhD, and you realize after 2 or 3 years that you don't enjoy this. That might happen even if you're proactive, but I'm just saying that the chances of happening that within a specific person, if they are not proactive, is higher if if you're not thinking about that process before this. So that is number two. And number three, I would suggest, is how you can also think about um, your next step. What happens to you after you're done with your PhD? What is the long-term plan here that you're thinking about, right? So if the plan is to go in academia and to be a researcher, maybe PhD is the best option for you. But if the plan is to go, in private practice, you probably don't need PhD, right? Again, it's a lifestyle choice. If you're a PhD scientist, usually I've seen people where, you're connected with your subject all the time, right? All the time. When you're taking shower, when you're with anyone, you're in back of your mind, you're always thinking about how to improve your field and what to do next and what are the different projects. So it's a lifestyle choice that you're making. You need to be very careful with that, right? If you make a good choice, your life will be happy and success will become just a byproduct. But if you don't make proactive appropriate choice, then it can become anxiety inducing life. Okay, so I just would like to add that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Ishan sir said that it's a choice. It's not like that. Um, so right now, it doesn't matter where I did my PhD. It doesn't matter. I always been called as Dr. Lisa's student because she was the one I did with, and we share the same exact area of interest. So I never wanted to come to USA. I started my PhD journey from Australia. I just wanted to go to Macquarie University, but I did not get the PhD there. Then I shifted to European countries and started searching for the people who does the same research. I got several places, and at the same time, I came across Lisha's paper, and I contacted her. She also agrees to take me as a student. So after it was like, where should I go? Where should I go? Because other universities were paying me good amount of stipend, no doubt. Here I was getting less stipend, no problem. So I sat with my one of my professors who did PhD from Canada, and then we started discussing what should I do. I was confused. So he was like, okay, it's not about money, it's not about place, it's not about anything. It's about what you want to do and who you want to do with. So she is the best choice for you right now, for your area of interest, because he knew what I wanted to do, because we used to do a lot of work together, and he was my teacher also. He was like, your area matches with her exactly same, and she will be the best guide for you to pursue your PhD than any other people. So I just never gave a second thought. I just came here because, as we share same interest, like his answer said that even you're sharing with the people, you keep thinking, yes, still I when I'm sleeping, when I'm taking shower, when I'm in the gym, or wherever I am, I keep thinking, okay, my monkey performed very bad today. What should I change in the parameter to make him more motivated so that he can give me a hit rate of 85% tomorrow, or he can go through 1,000 trials. So I keep thinking all the time. When I get my research paper back for review, they are asking me, okay, this stats, it's wrong. You have to change the stats. Now I keep thinking, okay, I have applied this analysis. This is wrong. So what should I apply next? So it's like all the time, subconscious mind is working for your mind is working what to do to the next. I mean, for the next step. It's not like that. When I went at 9 o'clock, did 5, 6 testing, fitted 2, 3 hearing aids, came at 5 o'clock and done. No, it's not like that. Actually, our work starts after we come back from the lab, after we come from the workplace. Then we start thinking, okay, what I have to do, how should I do? So it's the choice of your lifestyle. Definitely you will get anxiety, definitely you will go through depression, no doubt. Everybody has gone to some extent, that is for sure. And if you choose a wrong professor who doesn't share exactly or not even 10% of area of interest, it will be very hard for not for you, for both of you. It's not the one-way process, it's both-way process. And I have seen people dropping their PhD in third year or fourth year, or even just before they are about to defend. So it's a very big choice. First of all, I would suggest all the audience, whoever will see this, if you're thinking about money, then PhD is not an option. PhD will give you stress, anxiety, definitely no money. because
Okay.
because I get questions all the time from my junior students. Sir, kitna kama lenge PhD ke baad? I was like, kama lenge means what? If you guys have this kind of thinking, then just don't waste your time doing PhD. Just do whatever you're doing. It's not about just money. It's not about things. It's about lifestyle. You will become the same way.
Mm. That's an important point. I think even if Soumya wants to add something for this, because PhD discussion, so relating to how to choose the correct thing and not just about the PhD life.
Yeah, I agree with them. I feel like I did not have as much clarity as both of them did. Like, I wish someone had given me this kind of advice at the beginning. The way I went about, kind of similar to what Bhanu was saying, also that, and I think Ishan said earlier, I looked at the website of like, I think I think I must have looked at all the universities, I think, to look at like what different researchers were working on, and like keeping in mind what my research interests are. So another thing that I would advise is that do a lot of research on the person that you want to work with. So kind of like Bhanu was saying, so the way that Bhanu did would be ideal. Like, do it that way. Like, if you've read papers of those people and if you're interested in that area of research, then approach that person. But the way I did it was like I looked at the different research areas in universities, and I actually emailed people whose research I was interested in to find out if they had a vacancy in their lab to support a PhD student. So whoever said that yes, they had a vacancy, the next question for me was, does your university provide funding?
Funding.
I only applied to universities where they said yes, they provide funding. So it was like after that I went in and looked at their application process and all that, because I knew I would not be able to fund myself. So I had to go to those universities where funding is provided. And that is another thing that I would say, that go for universities where funding is provided, because generally with PhD, you do get a stipend. You have to do maybe help your research mentor with research or with teaching assignments to get that stipend. But yeah, that's how I went about it. Again, I didn't use any agency help or anything, because no one knows about audiology. So I feel like that would be like a waste of money. Like, would be finding out the same way that I would be. And I think because I'm more invested in this process, I
You
would
would know
probably
this
work
better.
harder. Yeah,
Correct.
that was, oh, and the other thing I also looked at, so I got PhD opportunities from multiple universities. So then I looked at the advisor that I was working with and how much they had published.
Okay.
and in what kind of journals they had published, what was the impact factor of the journals and all of that. Because I wanted to make sure that I'm not going to a program where the person is kind of published a lot earlier, but is now not very invested in doing new research, because I thought then that would reduce my opportunities to do research.
Correct.
Another thing is also look at whether your advisor has funding. So have they gotten a lot of funding from NIH, NIDCD? There are different funding organizations. So look at whether they have been successful in getting these grants, because as a PhD student as well as faculty, you have to be, you will be applying for grants and getting that. So if someone has already had experience in getting grants, they'll be able to advise you better on how to apply yourself for it. So that is another thing. I think with what Ishan was saying, the EduFind website that also provides that information.
Okay.
You can look there. And university websites have mostly have some research information or have a CV attached to everyone's profiles. So you can also look through that to see what funding people have secured.
Okay. I think that's important here. So, last question I had with relate. Yes.
Can I just, yeah.
Yes, please.
So just to introduce a little bit heterogeneity in our thinking here. So it would be an important choice that your interest and the work that your advisor is doing, they're somewhat intersecting, somewhat. But you don't want to be in a situation where you are competing with your advisor after you are done with this process, right? So you know I'm just going to say this thing because if you think about audiology as a field, we have a very small field, right? And about 500 individuals, or so, they have PhD, and they are clinical audiologists. So it's a extremely small field. If you take an example of, let's say, genetics, which is huge, right, compared to clinical audiology, or hearing science in general, you will find that there is a specific emphasis given about the mentorship, that once you are done with your student need to show that they are doing different research than the advisor, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you're competing with your advisor after you are done with the research. So just to introduce a little bit heterogeneity, it would be good if you are mature enough and you can tolerate the right intervention, having diverse thinking, having a group which is highly motivated by multiple disciplines, and who would who would challenge your thoughts in a positive manner and give you good learning opportunities to acquire the skills that you would like to acquire for being independent in future. What is the objective of a PhD program? To be an independent researcher, so you can maintain your own lab. So that can be done when you are exposed to multiple researchers with diverse background, with diverse opinion. Homogeneity in thinking is like declaring intellectual bankruptcy. You don't want to do that. Okay.
That's an important point. Yes. So the last question which I wanted to add in the PhD part is, so I think Ishansa can answer this. So if you do a PhD, working in a clinical setup is impossible, is it? Is that the question which I often get? So because AUD is what people associate with clinical and PhD with research, but you were talking about the other part where you don't need an AUD exactly to work. So can you just a little bit elaborate about that here as well?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So I have my PhD, but I don't have AUD. I did my master's from Aliyawarjung, Mumbai. And the way um, the entire requirements are described by Asha is that you need to get X amount of hours to complete with, like, within your doctoral degree work. And once you have those hours, then you can do fourth year externship. So the way I did this is that I already have my master's degree, so I transfer all the credits to the PhD program, then
Okay.
I took more courses that was not complementary, and I needed more courses. So I took those courses, and then I did my externship along with, my PhD. Okay, so I was collecting data, and then I was performing, clinical, so kind of clinical hours that I took. And that worked out pretty well, but you have to be very cautious, and you need to have, supporting environment.
Okay.
Many universities probably would not provide that kind of environment. ASHA also changed their requirements after 2008, 17 and 18. So that might be a little bit different. But, according to the ASHA's latest report, they would say that you would require doctoral degree, not, they would not say that you need AUD degree, right?
Okay.
So having said that, you also can be done by your PhD degree, and then you can apply for accelerated program, something that Savitha was talking about, and you can get your licensure. It's also important to note that in America, the final thing that you need to practice audiology is licensure, not clinical certification. So you can work as clinical audiologist in a state without C's or clinical certification from ASHA or from AAA, but you will need your licensure, state licensure, if that
So
makes sense.
clinical certification is like this TCC which SLPs have?
Yeah, so clinical certification is something that usually you can apply to after getting your AUD.
Okay.
But even if you don't have that affiliation with ASHA, for example, or AAA, you can still apply directly to your licensure agency, and without C's, you can work as a clinical audiologist if you have state license,
Okay.
right?
So this depends on each state you're in.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you have,
Ultimately, in any states, what you need to work as a clinical audiologist is a state licensure.
okay.
You don't need AAA certification or ASHA certification. If you have ASHA certification and AAA certification, you can just provide that to these state licensure agencies, and they will be able to process your request pretty efficiently. Right. So, for example, when I moved from Arizona to Iowa, I had to just provide my C's, and that was convenient. But if you know, for some reason you don't have your C's, but you have all the clinical hours and everything, you can provide that to your agency, state
Okay.
licensure agency, and they can process it.
All right. So for the state licensure, you need to write an exam. Is practice for that?
Yeah, so well, you need praxis exam after you're done with your doctoral degree, but after that you will go through the practical exam. It's a state dependent phenomena. So like, some states would like to have a practical exam. So they will
Okay.
go with a practical exam, and then some multiple choice question type of qualifying exam, and that way
Okay.
they provide certification. But
Okay.
Soumya should have more recent information. So Soumya, would you like to add something?
Yeah, so I think it's like Ishan said, you require a state license to practice. If you practice without a state license, like you're liable for malpractice. You're not
Okay.
allowed to do that. But certification is more like, I mean, it enhances your profile, I guess.
Okay.
And like Ishan was saying, if you have your ASHA certification, the requirements for ASHA certification are much more than state license. So if you
Okay.
have your ASHA certification, you can pretty much, you
Get
have
that.
met the needs for all the state certification, state licensure.
Okay.
So because
Okay.
the number of hours that you need to qualify for ASHA certification is much more than what different states require.
Okay. All right.
And qualifying exam for both is praxis, and
Okay.
different states have requirements, may have additional requirements for if you need to dispense hearing aids. So
Oh,
if you're
okay.
in a setting where you don't dispense hearing aids at all, you have your audiology state license. But if you're also dispensing hearing aids, then some states have an additional hearing aid dispensing license.
Okay.
So, like for example, California requires that. So with the hearing aid dispensing license in California, you have a written exam and then you also have a practical exam that you have to give
Okay.
to
Okay.
be able to dispense hearing aids. So
Okay.
that is again state dependent.
Okay.
Soumya, thank you so much
And
for clarifying that, because I applied for my dispensing audiology licensure, and that's what I was thinking when I said that. So thank you so much for clarifying that. So if you are applying for, let's say, state licensure for dispensing audiologist, that means you're audiologist and you would like to sell hearing aids or prescribe hearing aids,
Okay.
then that's different as compared to practicing audiology,
I assumed
right?
it would be a given. If you're an audiologist, you would be dispensing hearing aids, is what I assumed.
Yeah.
yeah, there
Yeah.
are like you could be a cochlear implant audiologist, so you don't
Okay.
really do dispensing at all, or you could be a
Okay.
vestibular audiologist where you're only doing vestib, or yeah,
Okay.
there are like different scenarios you can be, or you can be in academia like I am. So we are not doing a lot. It just depends if you're dispensing hearing aids or not.
Okay. Does your university dispense hearing aids, or the hospital you are associated with?
Not as yet. So our audiology program is very new,
Okay.
and we are a donation-based clinic, so we don't charge for services. So we are just setting up. So we have to set up
Okay.
uh, a system for which like we can charge for hearing aids, right? Because hearing aids we have to pay the company
Yes.
for hearing aids. So we are in process of developing that.
Okay. I also wanted to ask if Savitha, have you done these licensure and all of these?
Yeah, so I do, I currently still have my state licensure. And like I said, like you just need the praxis. If you pass the praxis, then you can apply for your license, so you can get your state license. My state did not require the dispensing license, but like the state right next to my state does require. So even if I have to travel, and if one of my clinics is in that state, then I do have to do like the hearing aid dispensing certification and get that license here as well. But I did not have to do that. So I didn't have to do that exam or anything. And another thing I wanted to add is like, so far, like we talked about C's a little bit, and it's like, oh, then why does it exist? Like, what benefit does it give? And just like this, like it does do professionally, you're a part of an organization, all of that. Another thing, some universities, like I went to Indiana University and they require their externs to be supervised by an audiologist that carries their C's. So only if their hours get signed or like if they're supervised by an audiologist with CCCA, those hours can be calculated for them to graduate. So that is a requirement that they have. But a lot of audiologists are not seeing much value in the season. Some universities, for example, Purdue University, which is still in the state of Indiana, they do not require that. Instead,
Okay.
they say you have to take so many hours of clinical supervision courses, like how to supervise a student. So you just take courses on that, and then they don't require the C. So that is just like one more thing about C's that
Okay.
I've found out.
Okay, that's interesting. I think the same discussion came up even when I was talking to the SLPs in the US, and they also spoke about the same thing. A few of them require it, a few of them don't, but it was a pretty similar discussion. Okay,
I would just add one more thing, that anyone who's thinking about practicing clinical audiology here, uh, think that your clinical certification is required. Okay.
Hmm.
Having clinical certification will not do any harm to you, if that makes sense. It can only bring positive things to you without doing any harm. So I would say any aspirant who is interested in this kind of work should have clinical certification and should also be affiliated with AAA.
Okay, makes sense. Okay. So the last thing is it easy to get a student visa? Anybody can answer.
It was pretty easy to get a student visa.
Okay,
I think as long as you have like your I-20 from an organization. And for me, I think it was easy because like I had funding. So I was not asked for any other paperwork when I went for visa.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
know. Yeah, I would be interested to hear everyone else's experience.
So for PhD, I found that it's pretty easy to get student visa because, like Soumya said, you already have a funding. So
Mm-hmm.
it's they calling you, not you going actually. It's
Correct.
in opposite way. So they don't ask much question during interview. They will ask only random questions. They ask me, what are you going to do? What's your research about? And
Okay.
those things. But the most important thing is you cannot go to any random university, apply for it, and you get the student visa. So what I learned so far, a few of my friends who were also applying for like cybersecurity and other places, and they just chose the college which is like the college, not the universities, like state universities. They just choose a random college, and their visa was got rejected 2 times. You have only
Okay.
3 times actually. So it depends on what kind of university you are going. If the university is good, high ranked, or state universities, then you have more probability of getting visa than general
Okay.
colleges, small colleges. As well as during interview, they require at least 3 offer letters. It's not like that you get only offer letter from one university and just go for it. They will
Okay.
ask you how many places did you apply, how many places did you get it. So that's where I have a friend who runs this agency. This what do you call? I forgot the term again. Consultancy. So
Consultancy.
I learned from him that you should have at least 3 offers in your hand before you apply for visa. Then only there's a high probability of getting the visa.
Okay.
But in terms of PhD, I had only one college, one university applied. I got from there, and I just went directly,
Okay.
and they gave me visa. So for like AUD and other courses, master's level courses, you should have at least 3 offer letter in your hand, I-20s, and they should be from a good universities, at least state level universities. Otherwise, it's highly unlikely you get the visa.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I
So,
had not heard of that requirement that you needed three. Like I thought like you can only get I-20 from one university. Can you get I-20 from multiple universities? I'm not sure.
So you get the
You can.
offer and then you choose. Yeah.
Yeah, you
I-20 is
can
just
get.
show I-20 just shows how much fees is required and how much you have to pay.
Yeah, Bhanu, you're right, exactly. So you can get multiple I-20 from different universities, and that's fine. Uh, but again, I haven't heard about, having like multiple offers from different universities that you have to show. The other thing is that keep in mind that speech and language is a professional program, which doesn't really require, if you're going for a specific university um, which has been credited by CAA, then chances are, it's a pretty good program, and they have specific rank and all the requirements that they carry forward. So most of the, uh, yeah, it might not be comparable to non-professional programs. That's what I'm trying to say.
okay.
And on Banu's point, I-20 does provide a lot of detail about, what would be the expected expense, and then what are the amount that they are paying. For most of the PhD program, it would be straightforward. We usually pay everything. Um, but for AUD program, if you're not getting paid, then be prepared to show that you have sufficient liquid, properties to uh, basically cover the expense.
So this was my next question. So, PhD programs pay you, right? So you have a stipend which you're getting. But for AUD, is there a particular amount you need to have in your balance, or does that depend on where you're applying?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a very good question. And the other question is how much I need to have in my bank account.
Yes.
So there's no really good answer to that, but I can just try to give you some details. F1 visa is a momentary visa where you're saying that my intention is to go to a university and then get back to India.
Okay.
So that is the intention from the visa officer's standpoint. So what you need to show is that you have liquid property. That means you have cash or maybe, some liquid form of property that you can, support, um, your studies abroad in United States. So if let's say your degree is costing you $20,000 per year, but you just have $5,000 as a liquid property, that would be, um, that would raise eyebrow, and
Okay.
there might be suspicion, behind that. But if you can show that you have, let's say, $30,000, and your degree is costing you about $20,000, plus you have, XYZ assistantship that is covering you some amount of expense, that would be a good situation to have. Your getting visa would be easier in that situation. With PhD program, usually people don't get inquiries. There are twofold things. Number one, PhD has a different outlook. It's not a professional degree, it's an advanced degree, right? So it is usually in the people see that in a national interest of United States.
Mm.
So inherently there is a softer standard for that. And number two, you have for AUD degrees, not for other professionals, but for PhD degrees in audiology field, usually it is paid off about 100%. So it's so easy from visa officer standpoint to see that yes, degree is costing you $20,000 and you are getting paid $20,000. So net amount that you have to put forward is zero, and that's a good sign. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So it's
it
all
does.
about money. Yes.
Yeah. I think, Banu, do you want to add something?
Oh, I forgot actually.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
yeah, he's exactly said what I wanted to say. It's all about
Okay.
money. Um, as long as they know you have money uh, to sponsor each and everything, you'll get the visa. But I think there's some requirement also to have your money in account for like some amount of time. I don't know much about that because I didn't have to deal with the money
Correct.
issues because I had all the money paid by um, school. But I
Okay.
don't know, I'm not sure, but there's some requirement that this much amount should be for this long period of time in your account. It's not like that. I have heard from people, I may be
Okay,
wrong
okay.
also.
Yeah, because
Like
of
if you
ex
got that mission and if you got that
I
mission, it's like $20,000. Then you ask your parents to transfer in your account. You just show it. I think it's not like that.
no,
Something.
yeah, something I don't know exactly because a few of the questions which I got were related to this, that how much money should I have in my bank balance for how long? So I didn't even know that was a requirement.
I would
Yeah.
say that if you're
There's
coming for, if you're coming for PhD, and if you're getting the assistantship and waiver, don't worry about money. Okay, usually they will not even ask you to show your tax return or bank statements, and you don't need money when in that situation. If you're
Okay.
coming for AUD and you're not covered financially, then you need to be prepared about showing that money
Mm.
in your bank account. It's a different conversation that at that point.
yeah.
So if people are concerned about money as an issue, then probably PhD would be a good choice for them.
Mm.
And just another thing to add to it, so if students want to look at how much the education, how much the tuition is, a tuition, or that's what they call the fees, whatever we call it, they can go to university websites. Generally, how much you require to pay for each semester, each year of the program is there in the university website.
Okay.
Or you can also, if you're not able to find it, sometimes it's a little tricky to find where exactly that amount is. You can email the contact person from the university that you're interested in. And that you'll find in that EduFind website that Ishan shared earlier. So you'll
Okay.
have the administrator of the department, they might be able to help you with where to find it. But generally, all universities have it pretty transparent at how much their tuition is. And that's a good place to look for it. And yeah, AUD, as far as I have seen, is not funded. So it's more like a master's program, right? So master's program
Correct.
are generally not funded in the US. So you may be able to get some assistantships, but that really varies from university to university. So that might be another question to ask or to find out.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
so too.
PhD.
Correct. So if you're doing an AUD, finding out about assistantship and scholarships is something which people have to look out for. Any information about scholarships any of you have? Because I don't think you would need that for a PhD, but for or even whatever it is.
See, the scholarship thing is like university dependent. So when you go to university website, like Soumya said or Ishan said, that everything is transparent. What scholarship they provide, what you can apply, how you can apply, is everything is totally transparent on their website. I don't know much about the other scholarship options, but university does have a lot of scholarship options or
Okay.
connections with the scholarship agencies, and everything is provided on the web page. I mean, if somebody is interested, they have to do a homework,
They have to look, yeah.
and they will get the information. I'm like, every university is different. My university had different scholarship options. Ishan's university has different scholarship options. Soumya has different. Savitha has different. It's totally university dependent. But I don't know about the universal scholarship options
Okay,
because I haven't looked at it and ever. But it's, if it comes to university, they do have a lot of scholarships and you can apply. Like one of my friend came last year, but he's not in audiology. He's more in uh, infrastructure thing.
Okay.
So his university offered him like $30,000 scholarship. The department itself offered.
Okay.
So he got it. And no other department offers or no other university offers that kind of scholarship. So it depends
You
on
can
the university.
inquire
You
about
just go to the web page. You have to do a little bit of hard work instead of just,
Okay.
And so there are like those big scholarships, like Bhanu was saying, and that's again university dependent. There are smaller scholarships, but and there are scholarships by ASHA, AAA, all of these organizations. But I would say like I don't know if those scholarships would be enough to pay for your tuition. It might be something that additional you can get. The bigger scholarships, like Bhanu was saying, that may pay for your education, but that's really university specific, and I don't know, like you just have to look into each university. But the smaller scholarships, again, like I would advise apply for everything. But again, that just depends, right? There's like different people applying for it, so you
Correct.
don't know whether you're going to get that scholarship. So don't bank on that. So that's a possibility, but it's not like you will get it. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
So you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
No, you finish it because it's a new topic. So please.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that there's so many unknown and moving parts in this process of getting funded and making sure that you have enough amount of money to support your studies. I would say the best thing to do is to really work hard, be nice to people, and don't shy away to express your financial needs, right? So those three things, if you take care of that, I feel that you will have a pretty good chance of getting successful at funding.
Okay, yeah, that's true. So
that's very important point.
you
It
should
actually
ask
happens,
for it.
yes.
Yeah. So I think inquiring about
One more very important point before I forget. So when you come on an F1 visa, you're only allowed to work in the university. So, like don't take up these positions where like you're working in a restaurant or something and you get paid hourly. That's not allowed. So you may be deported if you take those kind of positions. So be careful that you're only applying for positions within the university or the areas that your university has a connection with and has an agreement with that they have signed. In fact, someone was telling me that, this can be like this something that you really need to remember.
Okay.
I've heard that there are a lot of issues I know that like Indian students require funding, but be careful about like what kind of opportunities you're saying yes to.
Yeah, and now they have started changing the requirement. So if you're coming like very poor background and if you have a proof, they are trying to allow you to work anywhere for 20 hours on F1 in the new rules.
Okay, but you need to check
Right.
about
Instead
all
of
this
college,
stuff.
instead of college, you can work anywhere for like given amount of time. But I think you should have some kind of justification for that in order to get allowed for that.
Okay. The next question is, if the stipend which you get for PhD, is it something which you can manage? Does it cover your expenses?
It totally
Yeah,
depends on
mostly.
state to state.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some state gives you more stipend. So like
Okay.
University of Pennsylvania, they have a lot of money. They are Ivy, so their stipend is too much. I
Mm,
mean, you can enjoy your life that much of stipend they give here.
okay.
But universities other than Ivies, like normal universities, state universities, it depends on university. So my university has a different cap. For audiologists, there was different stipend. For computer
Okay.
science, it was higher. And it depends on your city. If your city is expensive, they will make sure that it's more than enough for your survival, not for
Okay.
your enjoyment. So you'll have appropriate amount of money so you can pay your rent, you can pay for your food, your little bit of travel expenses. That's it. No more, enjoyment. Um, but it depends on the city. So I might be getting less than Soumya was getting or Ishan in that time, or I might be getting more than them. It depends on the city, how
Okay.
expensive the city is. It's same like for your salary. It's just same like your stipend.
Okay. Anything else to add?
And another thing to ask about, are you going to get paid in fall, spring, and summer semesters, or only in fall and spring? So
Okay.
in my university in Iowa, I only got paid in fall and spring because our university is like designed in a way that summer you don't have that many classes.
Okay.
You do more of research, or in case of AUD, you do more clinic at that time.
Okay.
There are less classes, so I was only paid in fall and spring, but whatever I was paid in fall and spring, that was enough. Like I could save and I could pay my rent in the summer as well. And there were different scholarships that I could apply for. So as I learned about it, I would apply for different summer scholarships, and
Mm.
I got that successfully. So that's good. You need to find that out. Like for example, I had got an offer from a university in New York, and they were paying me more stipend than my university in Iowa. But considering the cost of rent and everything in New York, like that would have been more of a struggle for me. And they were ready to pay me even in summer. But like later on, when I came to the US and I realized like how much, like half of it or more, like 70-80% of my stipend would have gone in just paying for rent, because the rent
Okay.
in New York is so high. So they had to pay me in summer because I wouldn't be able to survive probably with even that higher stipend. So
Okay.
try to find out like what the rent is in the area that you're living in, as well as in relation to the stipend. And like Bhanu said, it
Yeah,
depends the state.
you have to do homework before you choose the stipend. I'm like, suppose it's Delhi and let's say I'll say my own city, Allahabad, right? The expenses are different.
Yeah, correct.
And like Soumya said for summer, my university provided classes on summer also, in summer also. So my stipend was paid 12 months. But like Ishan sir said, that you should be open, don't hide anything. There were classes, I mean, courses in other departments, they didn't have summer um, credits, summer stipend. But in order to be on F1, you have to have at least one credit during summer. And they just talk to you, their professor openly, I don't have money or anything, and they will give you some RA job or some kind of job
Okay.
where you get paid enough to survive for those 3 months. 3 months, yeah, 3 months. And then when spring or fall semester starts, you're back on your uh,
Okay. Okay.
stipend again. So it's just you have to talk.
You have to ask.
Everything has a solution here. You just have to be open for it.
Okay. So even as you get stipend, you could apply for assistantships or research assistant positions and get paid, right? Sorry,
Sorry?
Shankar, you wanted to say something.
Oh, I feel like, I just need to, broadly speaking, stipend is just to help you go through that time of your life. And it's not designed, that type of funding is not designed to sustain you in that time frame for a longer time. So I would say that a wise person would quickly complete a degree and move to the next phase. Whatever you would like to acquire that, and then move to the next phase of your life. Don't hang around, there's no point in spending like 10 years of your time in PhD program. I've seen some cases like that. As soon as you can, complete your PhD, you need to have a laser focus when you're doing your PhD, and then, just move on. Also think about very proactively about the cost of a degree and economic burden of a degree. Any degree that you spend time with carries economic burden. So you don't want to be, naive to that. You would like to make sure that, if I'm spending this amount of time here, how much I can save later in life? What is the amount of money that I'll be able to make later? So uh, proactively thinking about that should be very important.
Okay. So I think these are the main questions which I had on the financial part. Just one thing, one last question is that you can apply for assistantships or research assistant positions in the university, even as you're getting a stipend to help. If you get, it's all right. It's okay, right?
So there are certain, you can work for 40 hours a week,
Okay.
a total. And yeah, actually, you can work for 20 hours a week during, at least that's what it was for my university, that we could only work a maximum of 20 hours a week during fall and spring. And we could work for 40 hours a week during summer, because I did not have an assistantship. So according to my F1 rules, I don't know, it may have changed, like Bhanu was saying now. I wasn't allowed to work more than that, because I think they considered that your main aim is education, right? So you are working on your education and you are only allowed to work a maximum of 20 hours. You're not allowed to work more than that, because that would violate my F1 visa terms. So I don't know, it may have changed now.
Yeah, when you say like 40 hours, Soumya, I think you have to change your status from, you have to go on CPT, right? You have to activate your CPT, then only you can work for 40 hours on F1.
No,
So
so
every
for
time you go on,
summer and summer break, we were allowed to do 40 hours without going on CPT, because I think
oh,
I was not
okay,
paid from my university at all. But fall and
okay.
spring, I was only allowed to do 20 hours a week.
Yeah, based on F1 status, you only can work 20 hours,
Okay.
whether it is your stipend or
Or
assistant. Assistantship is also a stipend only. Actually, these are
yeah.
the different names. Yeah,
Okay.
so you
Okay.
cannot work more than 20 hours.
Okay. Fine. Fine.
Yeah.
All right. So I think I'll move on to the work-related questions. So we've covered the application, AUD, PhD, and financial part, and I want to go a little bit towards the work-related. So everybody asks me, so you finish your AUD, is it easy to get a job in the US? So anybody who can answer this.
I
Yeah.
would say like it's easy to get a job, but if you are particular about what kind of job you want to be in or where you want to work or the people you want to work with, that can be difficult. Like if you're looking at competitive places, then that can be difficult. But then there are opportunities out there to get a job.
Okay. Ishanta?
Yeah, I would say that try to be flexible with your with where you would like to go and people that you would like to work with. Maybe that's not the exact place where you intended to go, but you can also be creative with your life and kind of try to find new horizons. If you're open about that, finding a job after AUD degree is a piece of cake, in my opinion and my view. But there are certain things that you need to be thinking about if you are a student with F1 visa, and that is whether the place that you are applying will give you something called H1B,
Mm,
right? And so H1B is a working permit. So it's a work permit that you need to have in order to work independently as um, as a professional. Unlike F1 visa, H1 visa has a dual intent. So one intent is that you are likely to stay in America or you might be able to leave. You don't know that at that point. Whereas F1
okay.
visa, you are saying that you will complete your degree and you will leave.
Okay.
So there's so as you move on from F1 to H1B, you have dual intent now. So that's the visa standpoint. Now you also need to be thinking about this proactively, because if you are working for let's say university setup or non-profit organization where they have like a legal status of non-profit organization. If you're working for them, then applying for H1B and getting H1B is easier because they can apply almost throughout the year. There is no cap on how many people they admit on that category.
Okay.
If you are working for a private practice or a for-profit organizations, then they don't have the ability to apply for throughout the year, number one, and then um, I would say almost always your application is going to go in lottery, where you will your chance will determine whether you will get H1B or not. So that's the idea with H1B. I can
Okay.
also discuss about the later part, but maybe not. Maybe I'll let the other.
Yeah, I would like to add one more thing in that. So audiology doesn't come in STEM. So after you finish your study, you don't have 3 years of OPT extension. You will have only 1 year. So you have only one chance of lottery system if you go to non-profit or you go to profit organization. But if you go to non-profit organization, they can do it throughout, like Ishan sir said, but it's expensive, and they have to be ready to sponsor that kind of amount. It's a huge amount. It's not less. It's a huge amount. So you have to take care of that also, because you won't get 3 years of extension. So you have to figure out where you want to go.
Okay. So finding a job which supports this is important. And
But in my
Yes.
experience, I would say that you will find a job as an AUD holder. You will find a job if you're looking for it in a right direction at a right time, and you have a right orientation. It's not that job is not there. It's simply that, well, I want a specific job and it's right here in, City University of New York, and well, they don't have an opening. So, you know, those kind of situations set aside, if you have a right orientation, you should be able to find a job. Our success rate of finding a job after AUD degree is done is 100%,
okay.
and that's a story for throughout the spectrum of AUD programs.
Okay.
Exactly.
I think let's come back to the visa part. Anything else anybody wants to add about the H1B visa or the non-profit? Anything else?
Okay, so yeah, you also need to be careful about what happens after you are done with H1B, right? So H1B is offered or is approved for 3 years, and then you can you reapply, resubmit your application for another 3 years. So totally you will get 6 years of time, and during that time you need to convince your employer that they would be able to apply for green card. Now,
Okay.
if you are a clinician and you have a clinical doctoral degree and you're not doing any research, then it's likely that you will be getting into the EB3 or EB2 category. And
Okay.
both of those categories have about 10 to 15 years of backlog. So just be careful that before you get your green card, if you're doing your clinical doctorate here and working as a clinician, you will get a backlog of about 15 to 20 years to get your green card. And if that is a problem to you, other option is doing your PhD. And with the PhD, most of the universities will feel confident to apply for the AB2 category green card. And with a little bit of effort and in right direction, you can convince universities to apply for EB1 category green card. And EB1 category green card will be processed typically within a year or so. So that is a stunning advantage of pursuing AUD PhD or PhD over only AUD.
Okay.
And that's where I was thinking, maybe that's where, I was talking about circling back to the idea why United States, that
Mm.
comes into picture. That, you're thinking about such a long time frame of your life. Many things might change, you know. Um, so as you are, thinking about coming to United States to pursue your degree, think about all those long-standing life events, and be proactive with that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's
Uh,
an
I'm just saying that maybe I was talking to a colleague of mine, and she just moved to Australia a few years ago. And she was saying that, Australian immigration system is way efficient and more friendly than American system. I'm certainly not an expert in immigration system, but this is what I'm hearing from people.
okay. So that's very interesting, and it's something which people have to think about when they're choosing an AUD versus a PhD. Because if you said that it has 10 to 15 years of backlog, and you can apply for H1B only another time, so there's 6 years of work, and then what? You may or may not get a green card right then and there, right? So that's something which people have to think about, I guess.
True, that's true. But also think about this idea as well, that most of the, so if you get C's, for example,
Mhm.
from Asha, Asha has a reciprocity requirement, where if you are, clinical audiologist here at America, you will be able to get, certification in, let's say, Canada or in Australia. I'm not too sure about Europe. Maybe some other panelists might have some ideas there. But you can get reciprocity requirement. So it's, things will work out even
Okay,
for, if you have a clinical degree in audiology, be assured that, things will work out. There's
okay,
nothing to worry about in that sense. But it's a little, it's a process that requires a lot of thinking.
okay. Anybody wants to add anything here?
It's Yeah, it's totally what you want to do. Your end goal should be decided, right?
Correct.
Want to be clinical, then you have things will go in that way. If you want to be a researcher, you want to do research, you want to do something for, science, then things will go in that direction. But at the end of the day, things will be figured out.
Okay,
It takes time. Definitely, it will take time. It's not short-term money making, something like that. It's gonna take some time, some effort, some hard work, but it will figure out.
okay. So I think this covers most of the visa questions which I get. Let's just come back to the work-related questions. I just wanted to ask about the work-life balance because most of your PhD, PhD or postgrad, I don't know how that works for work-life balance or burnout or something because SLPs talk a lot about burnout whenever I see, and that's something which I wanted to ask you people about. I want to ask Savitha one so that because she is not in a PhD field.
So for my work in the US, I would say I had a very good work-life balance. Like I would go in at work at 7:30, come out the door at 4, and then I work for the federal government, so I work for the Veterans Affairs. And so all of the medical information, it's all like very like secure. So you're not allowed to take your work home. But
Okay.
then some of my private practice friends, they would might have to take some of their work home and like write notes at home, or they would like have to prepare for the next day, schedule at home. Sometimes they took work home, but then again, it depends on the person, the audiologist. Like you set your boundaries, and you don't necessarily have to take your work home. But in my case, it was super nice what I was not allowed to, and they kicked me out at like I could not even stay long if I wanted to. So yeah, very good work-life balance. And then you work 5 days a week. You're off on Saturdays and Sundays, and then you get 10 days of holiday throughout the year. So yeah, clinically, work-life balance is very nice.
Okay, can somebody from the research or institute point of view give me a idea on this?
So it's very subjective. Work-life balance is very subjective. It's not like that it doesn't have good work-life balance. it does. It depends on how you see it.
Okay.
Being a PhD holder and researcher, I won't say my work-life balance is good right now because I have a lot of work to do. So I'm with you guys now, and after that I have to review my paper. So it's a
Okay.
Saturday. Everybody is partying, enjoying, but I have to do that work because I have a deadline to meet. So it's like that. Like I said, it's very subjective. Sometimes it's very good life work-life balance. Sometimes it's not. Though you don't have any pressure from your work, from your professor or anybody, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yes.
So you have to manage. For
Okay.
me, it's like a little bit of hectic. Maybe I'm in my middle of career phase. I'm doing postdoc, so I have to do a lot of research work. But I'm sure Ishan sir might give you better perspective on that since he's already been as a professor for so long. He might be a better
Yeah.
answer, or Soumya. But I mean, what I have felt like for few months, it's very good, work-life balance. For few months, it's like very hectic. There's no life, only work, work, work. And then after a few months, it's very good life, work-life balance. Yeah, it's both ways.
I think Soumya can talk about this too.
Yeah, so mine is kind of very similar to Bhanu right now because I'm in my first year of work. So it's kind of like I'm preparing for all the classes that I'm teaching all the time because I'm teaching everything for the first time. And then I also have to do research and yeah, everything. There are service requirements that our university has. So I'm on different committees.
Okay.
So a lot of time that goes into that. And I feel like Bhanu was saying, sometimes there's like what you're required to do. And then sometimes we are like, we kind of maybe do it, put it on ourselves. We do like a lot more than we are required to do.
I
So
think it's
I
the
feel like
Indian
I'm still,
mentality.
yeah, Indian mentality, new faculty mentality, everything. So I think I'm still trying to develop that balance.
Okay.
But like my colleagues are very supportive and like they help me with any questions that I have. With a faculty position, you also have when it's called a tenure track position. So you go from assistant professor to associate professor. So you have some requirements. You need to show some amount of like your teaching efficiency, and with your research you have to show a certain amount of productivity, so we have to work towards all of that. So it is definitely hectic, I think, at least for the first few years, but the thing that, like, at least for me, I'm really enjoying it. So I enjoy teaching, I'm enjoying research, I'm enjoying like mentoring students for research and everything. And our audiology program is also new. We
Okay.
just started in 2020. So I'm also enjoying developing the program. So having a say towards what happens in the program. So I'm enjoying that process. So again, like going back to what Ishan was saying or Bhanu was saying, that it's like a lifestyle. So I'm not like people working clinically with an AUD may be earning more than I earn, even as an AUD PhD, because academia pays less. I feel like it's throughout.
Yeah.
It's the same in India, it's the same in the US, everywhere. So it's really, you do it if you really are interested in doing it, if you're passionate in doing it. So yeah, that's so even though I have like maybe not such a good work-life balance for now, I'm still enjoying what I do, and
That's what matters.
yeah, I think it's going to get better. Yeah.
I think we're all waiting for his answer.
Oh, yeah. So
Ishan is
well,
smiling when I said like it's going to get better, so he may know more.
now it's critically dependent on a person, right? So you can put yourself in a situation where you have to really work hard. For example, like, if you go to Harvard after your PhD, of course you need to work hard. Everyone there is putting, like, I don't know, 16, 18 hours of their life per day on the subject that they are, like, working with. So you need to get to that routine, and you need to have a lot of self-discipline in order to kind of to that. You also need to have supporting, family structure to do that. It's again, uh, what is work-life balance? That is the question that I feel like, it's worth thinking about. And work-life balance for a specific family might be different for, might be different, as different families. So I feel like, you need to really turn to your partner about this and just have a very honest discussion about what's going on, because there will be situations in PhD, programs, or after you're done with PhD, that um, will not be enjoyable all the time, right? So, to put it mildly. So, you need to have a lot of discussion with that thing, and then, think about what is work-life balance for us. That's very important. The other thing is that, um, you know uh, talk to your family about what you are trying to do. What is the end goal here? What is the end game here? Because, if they understand what you are trying to do, they are likely to be more supportive. But if they are just thinking about, uh, your goals are different than theirs, or their understanding is different, then probably, you'll have a lot of misunderstanding. The other thing is that, where you go matters. There is something called R1 university, R2 university, and R3 university. So R1 universities are high, extremely high intense research programs where, after you're done with your PhD, if you go there, then you have to show that you have extremely high publication records, and you can get NIH grants and so on and so forth. With R2 universities, which are high, they are called high research and teaching focus universities, where you have a little bit of flexibility of both. After I was done with my program, PhD program, I was in R2 university, which was enjoyable, and I could do, like, I'm done. Let's say on Tuesday afternoon, after doing my class, I'm done. I'm home, right? On Thursday, when I don't have class, I'll say, okay, I'm done. And on Saturday, I feel like, I feel like writing, and I'll say to my wife, can I go? And she'll say, yeah. So I would write for the entire day. So the idea is that it really depends, and that's the beauty of being in a PhD program. You also need to have self-discipline, and you need to have the ability to say no to people, um, to maintain the work-life balance. But for the 6 years after pursuing your PhD, be prepared that you will be in intense, situation where, if you work, then you will get a tenure, and once you have tenure, then, then it becomes whatever amount of pressure that you would like to take, you take. And if you don't want to take any pressure, then be that way. All right. I know Soumya and Bhanu would be thinking about like what I'm saying, um, but it depends where you want to go, what you want to do, and how much pressure you would like to take in your life. Right. It's a conversation between you and your partners.
Yeah. Okay. So just another
I would
question.
like to add
Yeah.
another thing. Sorry, you mentioned like burnout. Just like sir was saying, like it kind of depends on what you choose to do and what you think that your work-life balance is. Like I was in a clinic that wasn't so intense, like I could set more boundaries, versus if I had chosen just a different location and stayed in the same place, I would have burnt myself out. Like it I made that decision. I chose to be in a place that was low key so that I could do other things, and like have that good work life balance instead of being in a very like stressful location. So it comes down to what you think you need and what you think is right for you and what you want as well.
Correct. I think that's important. You can make the decision. It's all up to you, right? So another question to Savitha is, so you worked in the US in a clinical setup and in India right now. So
Mhm.
what is the main difference you see?
So I in the US I worked at a place where we did primarily like hearing tests and hearing aids, a little bit of CI, not much of vestib. Over here, the place that I'm working at right now, I have more of a like consultant role. And my focus is primarily hearing aids right now. So I can only compare that portion.
Okay.
So in terms of diagnostics, I feel like there's not much of a difference. In terms of hearing aids, there are a lot of areas in which we can grow here in India, and that is what my focus is on right now. Like in terms of doing real ear measurements for hearing aid fittings, like we don't see that a lot in India. And then I'm trying to find like, okay, who has the instrument? Who does it here? It's a very small group of people. So like that standard, and like, and even in the US, there are some places where it is not given as much importance, but you do see it more frequently than you do here. So that was kind of like the primary difference. And then the way that patients are treated. So in the US, in general, like wherever you work, I felt like the culture was like um, the customer is always right. And over here, usually physicians or like doctors, anyone is seen as like God, and they're like, whatever you say, I'll take it. So that there's that culture difference.
Yeah.
But things are changing here. Even like 5 years ago versus now, I can tell a difference between like how my patients are interested in knowing what the results are, or like counseling is very given more importance in the US because they want the patient to be informed and it to be their decision. Over here, there's less of that patient-centric counseling or family-centric counseling. Uh, so those were like the main points that I've noticed. And also in terms of like evidence-based practice, I feel like it is taken up sooner in the US compared to here, where people kind of still stick on to things that was done, in my experience, 5 years ago, the same thing is done now. But then I'm like, oh, wait, there's research backup for this, and you can actually change this. So there are a lot of things that can like improve in terms of hearing aids, especially. And I don't know, this could, again, my experience in Chennai, because most of the colleges here do not dispense hearing aids, and they're all just starting to.
Oh.
So that's kind of been a struggle in trying to like bring that level of standard of care here. But in terms of diagnostics, I feel like we're pretty much we get a lot of quantity. I did most of my diagnostic experience comes from Chennai, at Ramchandra. So I feel like that way I was strong here, but then hearing aid wise, there are more things that we can do here. And there's
Okay.
more standards that we can set to make it better.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. I think, like you said, we are still stuck. In the where I work, we still have patients who come with this old analog big hearing aids, and they don't want to come to the new one because, it's expensive and all of that. So we still prescribe those because they prefer that. So we're still stuck in the 5, 10-year-old mentality. So that's an interesting take.
Yeah, and in general, like something about hearing aids that I've noticed is, so I worked at a place, so the federal government or the VA, they give hearing aids free of cost. There is no cost to the patient at all, and I'm giving premium quality hearing aids. I'm giving the top of the line products to them, and I still have to counsel them a ton for them to accept the hearing aid because there's so much stigma. There's
Yeah.
so much of like shame or like feeling old, all of that attached to it, that I have learned that, okay, money is maybe not the only
Yeah.
problem. Money is
That's
just a term
surprising.
they use to cover up other issues they might have with using a hearing aid. So, trying to get that into the Indian community and being like, what other reasons are there for you to not wear a hearing aid, or what would help you wear it? Like, so money is not the only thing.
Yeah.
And
Not even.
I feel like we don't take enough time to really like talk to the patient and find that out. So yeah, another difference again comes down to counseling, how we do counseling, how much instructions we give. Not we don't talk as much to the patients. Also, might be due to the amount of people
Yeah,
every
no time.
clinic sees. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting that even if
This
it's
is kind
free,
of
they don't want to wear it.
it's kind of delivering service and selling hearing aids, right? If you
Yeah.
deliver service, then you will try to look into the matter in all the aspects, in terms of what is the problem, stigma related, financial related, or whatnot. But if you want to sell the hearing aids, that's what I don't like about India. It's like they just want to sell hearing aids, sell, 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 sell. That's why people don't believe in audiologists. much.
A bad
It,
name. Yeah.
yeah. On the other hand, if you see here, people discuss everything, each and every aspects. Nobody hides anything, and then it's not like you deciding hearing aids. It's you and your patient both coming to an agreement after so much of discussion. Then okay, this is best for you, and then you're prescribing. And when you have like she mentioned, evidence-based practice, so everybody follows here evidence-based practice. And we had a class also during AUD and PhD, which is called as evidence-based practice. And they apply here, and people are smart, right? Everybody knows things, they can figure out, they can learn online and everything, and that's how they discuss together, and then they come to a conclusion, and then they prescribe hearing aids. On the other hand, in India, I run my own clinics there. They just want to sell hearing aid, just profit-based business.
That's it's very rare to find people who are actually there for service than people who are there for the money. So
And they do exist. There are a lot of audiologists that want to do that. Sometimes there are other things that are involved in it that doesn't let them do it as much.
correct.
I feel like I'm lucky right now at my workplace where I can say, no, I do need this, I want this. And those are being met. So yeah, if there are people, you just have to give them enough like
Yeah.
motivation and like encourage that.
Yeah, that was the reason I left my hearing aid job. I'm like, I
Okay.
didn't wanted to fit someone a hearing aid, which they don't
Didn't
require. I mean, like, I was like, he only requires like, let's say, 15,000 hearing aids, and he'll be fine. Company's like, no, you have to push. He's rich. You have to pay, sell him
Yeah.
2.5C. I was like, why should I do that? And there was disagreement between me and the employer. So I was like, okay, tata, bye bye.
Yeah. I think this is a very common thing which few people face. A few of them would be happy to do that because they would get a commission, but a few of the people who actually have that in their heart would get annoyed by this.
Yeah, I have my patients during the hearing aids I fit during my time in that company. Still, they call me, they message me if they have some issues, where to go for programming, if something is,
Mm,
breakage, where to go, how to do. They were like, I don't want to deal with those people. They just want to sell me things. You suggest me where should I go, what should I do. I'm like, okay, I'm happy that though I
yeah,
was there for only 1 year, I have a list of patients. They do believe in me, and they still contact with me to go for a to go to the right place to get things done.
correct. Okay. So I think I'll go to the last part of the discussion. So I'll just ask you a few commonly asked questions by students to me. You can just tell me. So some of them are very direct, and we've already covered this generally, but I'll just ask you these questions because it's very common which students ask me. So first thing is that can you find a job in the US after a master's of audiology in India?
In India or in US?
So finding a job in the US after master's in India. No,
In
right?
audiology, I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, you
I,
don't have
I
license, first of all.
Yeah, I think
I know
Ishan
exactly
sir.
where this question is coming from. So the question is coming from the fact that you can pursue your master degree in India, and then you can come to United States and perform your clinical certification in speech language pathology and work as a speech language pathologist.
yes, that's
So you don't
the
need to, yeah. So that's where they're making parallel that you
the
can you
audiology
do
part.
the same thing in audiology? And answer to that question is no, you can't. Okay. So you need to, again, that's where the idea of this terminating degree comes into picture. Terminating degree is audiology AUD degree. That's what you need to work as clinical audiologist.
Okay, yes.
Well, I would like to add, although if you're wanting to just get a job, like for example, your partner is in the US, you just want to the US and start a job, whatever. If it is that situation, if you're looking at like hearing aid technicians or like head technicians, if you just want to do hearing aid dispensing, you're not an audiologist, you will not get paid at that range, but you can get a job. But you'll have to do again those certifications and then take exams
Oh,
for
okay,
the
okay.
licensing. But it is a shorter process compared to doing a full blown AUD degree.
Oh, okay.
thank you so much for pointing that out, because that's such an important thing. If you think about the audiology clinic revenue, about 80% or more would be generated by selling hearing aids. And it's very ironic in America that you can be a hearing instrument specialist with high school diploma, and you would be able to get your licensure in dispensing hearing aid. You remember our conversation where Soumya said that you have two types of licensure.
Yeah.
One is the dispensing audiologist, and the second one is clinical audiologist. So that dispensing audiologist means you can dispense hearing aid. That dispensing hearing aid can also be done without AUD degree. It's an extremely ironic thing to
Okay.
say about this situation, but nevertheless, you can do that if you have a spouse in America and you have, let's say, even undergraduate degree or no degree, quite frankly, no, only high school diploma, and you can take some classes in community college, and then you can do like a 3 or 6 months of hearing instrument certification. There are many online programs
Okay.
available to do that. You would be able to sell hearing aids, and that's possible. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know this hearing aid dispensing thing unless last year in AAA, Ishan sir only explained me this, that this is also an option to do.
Okay.
To give an idea of like the pay difference, so I work for the federal government. So the federal government has something called general schedule pay scale. So anyone can take a look at it. It's very transparent. So if an audiologist is given a position at their scales go from 1 to 15. An audiologist may be on the scale of like 11 or 12, 11, 12 or 13. But your health technician or hearing instrument specialist would be at 5 or 6.
Okay.
So the pay difference would be like more than half. In Of course, if you're doing like private practice, then you might get commissions maybe. But
Yeah.
the pay difference is huge, but you will have agent.
Yeah, that's an important thing. But in my experience, when I was doing my CFR and looking into those things, I know it's been a while now, but most of the hearing instrument specialists are found in private practice, and some of them might be affiliated with you know um, a hospital setup, and they would
Okay.
prescribe hearing aids. So um, it's a very interesting debate going on in our field, how we can, like, what is the relationship, and how that dynamic would have influence on the clinical audiology. This idea is also enhanced by the fact that now in America you will have over-the-counter hearing aids or self-fitting hearing aids, a wonderful opportunity for people who are suffering from hearing loss, but also something to think about for we as a profession
Yes.
in America. Unlike India, we don't have, clinical audiologists don't have licensure in speech language pathology, so they
Mm.
would not be able to do
Do
both.
both.
Um, yeah, but something to think about as well.
Okay. So that was going to be my next question. So because of I don't know, I've read it all over the news. We don't have it here yet, but you have over-the-counter hearing aids there. Do you think it's kind of like a risk to the jobs of audiologists, especially those who work in the clinical field? I think Savitha.
It was a conversation that was always like happening, and of course, it's like a debate with like both sides having valid points. But like at the end of the day, you're not selling something, you're providing a service. You're taking that patient on the journey, you're informing them about what they have. And as humans, we see value in like having that communication conversation with another human being instead of just getting it. So the over the counter gives them access to hearing aids to people who may not have tried it at all. And then maybe if they're like, oh, this didn't work out for me, let me go talk to a professional who really knows what they're doing. And you could get more patients. Or the other side of the argument is like, what if they try it and they hate it because it's not set for them, it is not customized for them? How are we going to regulate it? Then they're going to hate it and never want to come back to hearing it. So there's like
Both sides of it.
both
Yeah.
sides, but then at the end of the day, you're not, if you have the clear mindset that you are a professional and you're providing a service, then you will have people follow. You will have people that come back to you because what you do does have value.
Yeah. I think this
A few more thought on that. So it's a very interesting idea. Um, I can approach that with many different ways, but let me just say by saying that, start by saying that um, there's so many people suffering from hearing loss that can get benefited by hearing aids, but they don't have hearing aids because of many different reasons.
yeah.
There are even more people expected to acquire hearing loss by 2020, 2050, and there will be a huge requirement for people you know with hearing aids. So self-fitting hearing aids are important, over-the-counter hearing aids are important, and they are going to, or they have the potential to improve someone's life, and we need to do as a professional to do all we can to make that happen. So that is number one. Number two, what about the future of audiology? Well, we as a field have something to think about. We have made sequential decisions about making our field overly dependent, overly dependent, not dependent, overly dependent on devices like hearing aids and cochlear implant. So, do you think that audiology services will have any value without those devices? Or let's say that, devices usually have a pretty high value when they are invented, but then their value depreciate exponentially. So what happens when hearing aids are extremely high quality, but they also will depreciate in value? What will happen at that point is a honest conversation, open conversation that we should do as a field. um, I see new opportunities created for the field of audiology, but we have to think outside the box.
It's a very interesting topic, and I think there's always going to be discussion about this. Anybody else wants to add on to this? Okay. So I think we've covered most
I
of
have
it.
like
Yeah, yeah.
one, so another thing that I've been getting asked recently is after getting your AUD in the US and moving back to India, certification wise, license wise, how does that work? So the Rehab Council of India, it only recognizes BASLP, MASLP, MSc Audiology. It does not recognize your AUD. So if you are wanting to work in private practice, then it's really up to whoever is hiring you. I only have my RCI registration for my BASLP and not for anything else. Again, my value as a clinician in private practice is different. However, when it comes to if I want to work in a college or a university, then my degree is not valued at all. I'm still seen as a PASLP holder. So there's no way of me, I cannot apply for like a professor job or a teaching position
Okay.
because I don't have a PhD. Or I cannot apply for I can apply for a clinical supervision position, but then you don't have the MASLP qualification to get
Okay.
paid at that level. You're still considered as that DSLP. So those are some things that I've dealt with recently because RCI at this moment does not recognize an AUD.
AUD. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was also issue I heard few years ago. People who have PhD in hearing sciences and disorders, RCI didn't recognize it as a PhD, but they had some equivalency. They did something or the other thing, and then they got recognized, and they're working as a professors in medical
Okay.
colleges.
Maybe because they
So
have
I
that
think there might be
PhD.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there might be some way to look into it. Like, you can put forward a new, you know, idea to do some tweaking to.
Yeah, it's been a lot of people have tried. Some people have, I know like a couple AUD people in who have come back to India and they've tried and given up on it just because it's not an easy process. Like RCA, the people who are in that office, they're not like super accessible or anything. So
We all
that
had
isn't, yeah, it's an uphill battle on trying to get AUD recognized, but obviously like people are trying to get
Okay.
that to happen because of course we want like our people in India, like even if they go abroad, come back, bring that standard of care, bring that education, bring it back to India. So yeah, I especially like I'm trying to work on that, trying to push them, see if I can get anyone, see if I can get a large group of people who are like, we all have an AUD, why don't we make it like easier for those people to practice here, give them more like an edge over like just a bachelor's degree. But yeah, that is the current situation, and I wanted to make
Okay.
sure that people are aware of that. Like it's not an easy ride if you're
Okay.
choosing to come back for any reason.
If you're in private practice, it's up to your employer, but if it's an institute or something, it's difficult.
And you need your private practice employer to like, or any hospital, whatever you're
Yeah.
working, to see value in your degree.
Yeah,
And since we don't have AUD here, not everyone does see that.
correct. Okay. So the next question, I think most of these are answered. So can you do an AUD after BASLP? Yes, you can. The next question is if somebody did their BSc in India, is there any master's course for audiology in the US? I'm going to say no because it's the AUD, right? Or it's PhD. There's no master's or such, just like how speech has in audiology. My next question is, yeah,
AUD is the
is the
master's in.
master's, yeah.
But I don't know. I might be wrong also. But there are few institutions still offers masters in audiology. Ishan sir?
Yeah,
I
I have heard about
wouldn't
that, but
advise doing that.
yeah, because you would not be able to practice audiology with
Okay.
those degrees. So
You need an AUD to
Yeah.
practice, yeah.
yeah, there are a couple of cases like that in recent years, because you might have someone enrolled in PhD program and then they decided to drop out, and now they have masters in audiology or something like that. But
Okay.
yeah, I would not recommend doing
Okay.
those things. Yeah.
The other question was about other courses you can do as audiology related. So I think they can read up on this related to hearing aid dispensing or any other things. Is there something for vestibular or tinnitus also, or it's just hearing? If you guys have heard of any other than hearing aid dispensing, non masters related.
Uh, I'm not too sure if I understand the question correctly. Do you mean like, within the AUD program, can you take other
No, no, no.
courses?
No, I meant
So,
like other than the AUD program, like how we
uh-huh.
were talking about the 3 or 6 month hearing aid dispensing course. Are there any other courses you know of audiology related? No, right? Okay.
There are certifications that, different institutions offer, but uh,
You
but
wouldn't be able to
other,
practice for that, I guess, right?
yeah, exactly.
All right. Okay, another question is distant AUDs. Can anybody, so you can stay in India and you can do an AUD. Is there any information anybody can give me on this? Either Soumya or Ishan sir?
I only know that you can do your externship portion abroad. Like,
Okay.
so for example, like I have my AUD. If I were to get my C's, then I can supervise someone here
Okay.
for them to stay in India and get that clinical experience. But
But
for the
like studying
class,
the whole, yeah, the
for the
academic
academic
part,
portion, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm also not sure, but I have come across with several people.
yeah,
They have done distance AUD from Silas
is that
University, I don't know,
yeah.
and they came to US for their externship.
Oh, okay. But the academic
Yeah,
part
so
was in India.
they did online and then they came for externship. I have heard two people said that to me, but I'm not that much sure about it.
Okay.
But I have heard this. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of my friends actually, she worked in Canada for a few years. She is doing a distant AUD, and
Okay.
so the Salus University is one of the ones. I don't know if they still offer it because I think someone told me that they stopped it.
Okay.
AT Still University is another, I think, that offers distant AUD. I'm
Okay.
not exactly sure of the requirements because for my friend who's doing it, she has worked in Canada, right, for many years.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think that may be the reason why she's able to do it. A
Okay.
lot of the audiologists who did masters in audiology, like many years back when AUD was not a thing, they are doing this distant AUD just to get that AUD degree because now AUD is becoming like the standard of care for audiology.
Okay.
So some audiologists that I know had done masters like
Okay.
many years back. So they are doing the distant AUD. So that's because they already have the clinical, like they've been working in the US for many years. So they just need that AUD coursework. Some of the courses that they've not had maybe previously. I'm not sure if someone can do it from India
Okay.
because I'm not sure how the clinical part would unfold.
So
Yeah,
I have a
yeah, go ahead. So I have heard few people, I would not say their name, but they have done from India, and I think they came here for externship, but I'm sure about someone who did from Middle Eastern country and then came here, did externship and doing job here only.
Okay. Yeah, Ishan,
Yeah.
sir?
So the tricky part is not the coursework. You can do the coursework online, but a tricky part is to get your hours, right? And for that, you need someone with the AUD degree who is holding licensure, or I'm sorry, not licensure, the clinical certification in audiology, maybe through AAA or maybe through ASHA or maybe
Okay.
both. And that person, if you can find that right person in India, for example, Savitha. So, if you can find her and if she says, okay, I will be able to, spend like, supervise you and then provide you
Okay.
hours, and those hours can go back to the American university, and they will say, okay, yeah, this is fine because you have your C's, and I'm not too sure about the state licensure requirement, probably not, but you know if that is true, then they can transfer those hours and allow you to get your degree.
Okay.
That makes sense. That is the critical piece. If you
Mhm.
can't find that person, then come to United States and they will find a person for you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Makes sense. I think if I get hold of somebody who's done their distant AUD next time, they'll be able to answer all these questions. All right. So I think this is most of the questions which I wanted to ask because everything else is a repetition of what we've already discussed. The last part, I just wanted to ask you that tell me something you love about what you do. I think I'll start with Savita.
I love like just talking to patients and being with them, seeing them like forehead with hearing aids and like their life after that. I've had a lot of patients in the US. Some of my patients have said like, you helped me save with my marriage. Like it really improved my relationship with my spouse. Or like they'll come back crying saying, I heard my granddaughter singing at some event, or like really sweet things like that. So there's always like that job satisfaction piece if you're doing like, if we're at least that I felt in the clinical side of things, spending that time with the patient, getting to really know what they're there for, what their need is, and putting them first instead of like having that sales driven
Yeah.
view on patients. So that is something that I love, and that is why like I'm passionate about continuing in that line of work. Uh, Regardless of like how my pay has changed from when I was in the US versus where I am right now. Huge drop, but I still love what I do and very passionate about it because like job satisfaction.
Yeah. Soumya? Okay, Bhanu.
So currently I like talking to an animal that doesn't talk to me, trying to figure out what's going on in his mind, trying to make him engage with the task, trying to train him what I'm supposed to train him. So it's
Mm.
like challenging, but it's very soothing. It's very enjoyable. I'm like one day his not responding at all. His response rate is nothing. And then you have to figure out, okay, how can I, make him do the task, and how can I? They are very dangerous. Definitely, they are
My
most
God.
dangerous animal I've ever seen in my life. If you give them food, they will take food and then attack on you. It's like that. So you have to figure out how to manage them and how to make them engage in the task, because they are very smart animal and they will teach you rather you teach them. So you have to figure out whether the animal is teaching me or I'm the one who's teaching the animal. So you have to figure out, we sit together as a team and then figure out, okay, this is what is going on. Then we change the parameters and task related things, and then next day he's performing good. So I love that. Yeah, it's challenging, but it's very nice.
It's very interesting to see you working with this. I mean, you work in audiology, but you work with apes, so it's very interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, Soumya?
So, with his animal thing, I was reminded of something. So, I also did a certificate in animal audiology. So,
Oh,
that is available is like through the University of Cincinnati, where there is an audiologist who like he provides this degree, and this lets me I can test hearing of dogs using this. So, it's
wow.
basically like canine audiology. So I just did it because I love dogs. So I would, it's not like, so they emphasize at the beginning of the course that it's not going to be a livelihood. Like you're not going to
Yeah.
be testing dogs every day the way you test humans. It's something that you can do like, once a month. You could be working with a vet the same way that you work with ENTs, right? Like
Okay,
as
yeah.
audiologists. As animal audiologists, you can work with vets and like go once a month or something and go and screen the hearing of their dogs. Basically, we use ABR to do that
Okay,
and
okay.
like all the objective tests.
I was thinking of
So just
conditioning a dog.
no, you don't condition. You just do objective measures.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's like one of the courses you can do along with AUD. But one of
Mm,
the requirements for that course is that you have to be enrolled in an AUD or
okay.
already have an AUD. So just something interesting. But as far as like what I enjoy about my work, I really enjoy. I always knew that I want to go to a teaching focused university. So like Ishan was mentioning, so mine was more going to a university where their focus was on teaching.
Okay.
So I'm enjoying teaching, interacting with students, also enjoying research. So kind of like. Uh, Different from R1, like I don't have that many requirements for grants or as much research productivity that R1 requires.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever research I do, I feel like I have been able to meet like the minimum requirements, but I do more than that because like I'm interested in research. So I feel like this is what I wanted to do. Like I didn't want to do research because I'm forced to do it because of the requirements of the university, but I wanted to do it because I like to do
You,
it.
okay.
So I'm enjoying that aspect of it. Also enjoying, like I was telling all of you, that it's a new program, so I'm enjoying providing feedback towards that and
Mm,
developing it. So yeah, it's been fun so far.
that's very nice. Yes, Ishanta.
Yeah, wonderful. I just enjoyed hearing about that. I'm a clinical audiologist by heart. Okay, my heart is of clinical audiologist. So when I was in India, I used to really enjoy providing clinical services to patients. And we were getting like patients from all economical background. Most of them were, local, Mumbaikars. And so I was exposed to really rich population and kind of, throughout the entire spectrum of age and, exhaustive, uh, you know, and when I was doing this kind of work, I was thinking about this idea that, you know, is there a way to reach out to every individual of this world who can, who needs a speech and hearing or audiology related services, and maybe is there a way to, rather than, doing like service to one person, is there a way to provide services to all of them? That was the thought. And from that thought, I realized that, well, scientists can do that. People who are doing research, if they have the ability to move a field in different direction, which is more, appropriate, and like, reaching out to many different people of, different socioeconomical background, people who have the scientific background can do that. So that was the major driving force behind that. The other thing is I really enjoy teaching. So, working with next generation of scientists and training them is a very important task that I do. Training next generation leaders in audiology is a very important one, like Soumya, like Bhanu, like Savitha. so, that's a very enjoyable task that we see. And ultimately, our commitment is always to our patients, our client, our population that we serve. So reaching out to them and listening from them, learning from them, and delivering something better to them drives me personally.
That's very nice. Okay, so the last question I'd like to ask you guys. So, any advice you'd like to give to young audiologists who are applying or who are in the process of this application? So, any piece of advice? Let's start with Soumya.
Yeah, so I would say like do your homework, like research the websites of the universities that you want to apply to. Don't ask questions about things that are already available on the website. Ask like if based on reading that, if you have more questions, then ask about that, and start early. Like really the whole process of GRE, TOEFL, the deadlines for the universities, all of it is like everything you need to start like years in advance so that you're able to do all that well. Like, yeah, if you don't want to give GRE again and again because you didn't get a good score, like it's good to start early and prepare and do well. Yeah, that is, and then like we have said like multiple times during the conversation, that know what you want to do, like think about what you want to do in like after your degrees, and then apply based on that. Do you want to really do research? Are you really interested in clinic? And try to find out where your heart is at, and then start with all of your efforts.
Correct. Savitha, anything to add?
Yeah, very similar thoughts. Start early. One thing that somebody asked me before when I was planning on going, they asked me like, why are you wanting to go to the US? Why in particular the US? What is the reason behind it? What is the drive behind it? It is just because somebody, your senior has gone there. Is it just because like everyone else is doing it? Find that purpose that, and I ask that question to whoever comes to me as well. I'm like, are you only trying to get an experience outside of where you are right now, or does it have to be the US? Are you wanting to work in the US post your degree? Like, do I recommend going to the US and then coming back? Financially, no. But if finance is not your priority, then sure, you can do it. And for that reason, I would say if you want to stay in India, then probably just move around in India, or like, I don't know. I think it's convenient to study where you want to practice, but then if you want that exposure and you want that, those are intangibles. Like you can't really put a price on the experience that you get out there. And if that's what you're looking for, then sure, go ahead. But do think about that. Don't just go because everyone else is going. Like, see what you want and how you see yourself 10 years from now. Do you still want to be paying loans and like working on that? Or do you want to like be in a different country and live there? Then yeah, those are, ask yourself those questions. They're very important questions to ask yourself. Where do you want to be? And then work towards that, which is what, yeah, everyone else has said as well.
Okay, that's
So,
important. Yeah. Banu?
So you're talking about in terms of admission process, right?
Just advice to any audiologist.
It's very, very controversial topic for me to answer. I mean, like, I don't know. First, you have to ask yourself, what do you want to do? Earn money or learn something better, do better job? If you want to earn money, just be in India. You can earn a lot if you have that skill set. But if you want to, what do you call, develop yourself more into better audiologist, you think you cannot be that in India. You want to go there and learn and be a better person, then you're welcome. You come, no problem. Then you, if you know that fact, then that you will find your way by your own. Instead of just going asking people how to do, everything is there online.
Yeah.
Just Google everything. You'll get each and every answer. Just go
Yeah.
to chat GPT, write the question, it will give you the whole answer. You don't have to worry about anything else also. But you should have a plan what you want to do. See, being a PhD, I didn't wanted to go to the money side. I just wanted to learn things, do something better, like Ishan sir said, to the clinical population, to the people who have speech perception issues that I have, came across to like thousands of patients while in India. So I wanted to do something different, do something better for the society. And I think I didn't find that way there in India. So I choose to go somewhere else to, get that information and all those things. That's why I chose to come to US and pursue my PhD and start doing other works. Right. So I wanted to do, that's why I had to leave my job and I have to do all the, preparation, run here and there, ask people if I'm getting confused, take helps, and then this way or the other way, like you say, when there's a will, there's a way. I managed to come, right? So you should have better understanding of what you want to do, because I get like hundreds and thousands of messages every day
Yeah.
from Indian students, and I hate those messages. I don't want to be rude to them, but their only question is like, how much will I earn? I cannot give you answer. If I'm not earning money, how can I give you answer how much you're gonna earn? I don't know about how much AUD people earn here, right? Somebody might be earning 44K, somebody might be 120, 300K. I don't know, right? If you're asking me about money, you're asking a guy, how much will you earn, who doesn't care about money. He cannot give you that answer. So you have to be very, like Savitha, she learned, she did things and she went back. She had a goal fixed, right? What she wants to do, right? She had something in her mind, like Ishan sir had, like Soumya had, like I had. So you have to be very clear. And I would like to suggest to all those students, like degree, you have to learn stuff. Like I have been getting few calls since last couple of days. They are arguing with me about degree. Sir, I have this degree. How can you say that I cannot do that, do this? I'm like, I cannot make you understand for the things we don't want to understand. So if you want to have a better life, want to live different life and enjoy US like you thought, you can come on that basis. Or if you want to have like better understanding of the subject, you want to do, you understand things. I mean, like depends on you what you want to do based on you do. And like Soumya said, you have to start process early, a
Yeah.
year before you apply. So you have to give GRE, you have to give TOEFL, you have to give this assessment that's going to take months, and then trust and all those stuff. Application process. You have to know the deadlines of the universities, when to apply, what course, what semester you're applying, whether it's fall, spring. So all those are like small things that can be managed, but you have to make your mind what you want to do. Then you start with the process.
Correct.
If you
Yeah.
run behind the money, you won't earn the money. If you run behind, like you love what you're doing, you will definitely earn,
Yeah.
no problem.
And I've provided a link of the ASHA survey for salaries. So you can add that to your, because
I
that
will
has
add
like
that.
by state and by the setting. So
Oh,
that's
okay,
like
okay.
people enough information about
I'll
salaries.
add that. So I think that is a common question that will be given below. Last question to, yeah.
Yeah. So in response to that, like, I believe that society requires spectrum of different philosophy and spectrum of thinking. There's no problem that I see from my standpoint if a student asks me that how much I'm going to earn. There is a very healthy discussion to have with a student. And also it's very important to be familiar with the amount of money that you're going to be making after PhD or after AUD. If something that if you feel that this is not enough for you, you can always feel that way, right? There's no problem in that. So if you feel that is not something that is good enough for you, maybe you can, you can spend your time with something else. And that's also a very healthy thing to do. So I encourage that kind of thing, and I proactively kind of talk about this thing to my students. I really enjoy those students who ask about economical aspects of the degree, and what they will be making out of it, because that means they're thinking about being involved with the clinical degree. So that is number one. Number two is that I would say to anyone, quite frankly, this is a general advice, that you love your profession, really enjoy what you do. If you can't do that, probably choose what you love. And success is going to be just a byproduct that will come up with that process. It's not something that you have to chase after. Does that make sense? Right? Just keeping life very simple. Don't be success oriented. Be happiness oriented.
Yeah,
In terms of like I would add that the terms the money term, how much will you be earning? So there's a very bad uh, thing about audiologists in India. They have a thinking of that they are the best professional in the society, so they should be earning a lot of money, which is not technically realistic, right? So they come with that sort of mind. The only problem, I don't have any problem like with financial aspects, because everybody works to earn money, for sure. That's the basic requirement. But you should be realistic enough for you, what you're gonna earn, right? See, if I say that you will earn this, because students have said me that I earn more than you earn there. So what is the need to come to USA? So that's the question. Be realistic, right? You cannot be earning like $300,000 after completing your AUD, right? You're not. It's not that much. I mean, you might earn. You can definitely earn, but be realistic that when you start, you will be earning this much, and that's very
Yeah,
less for
I mean,
sure.
yeah, exactly. So what I would say to that particular point is that that's a very unrealistic expectation, and time will teach, right? So I mean, again, people who are making really high amount of money because they have really high expectations of themselves, uh, that also comes with some amount of burden. You're burning yourself out, or you're getting stressed out, or maybe some other aspect of your life is getting affected by that over ambition. But that's not something that I feel like, yeah, if someone is asking you about that, maybe you can talk about that idea. But again, that's a discussion between an advisor or your professor and the advisee. I would not try to change the mentality of the field in that sense. If they are interested in money, they have all the rights to go after money. We would love to see next Elon Musk coming from audiology background. I personally would love to see that, right? uh, so encourage them. um, but again, every decision that you make, even when you make, okay, I'm going to be a saint, that decision will also have repulsion, and it will also have are you okay enough to have that reality surround you? That's a personal question. So anyway.
Yeah, I think having a realistic expectation is important, and knowing that there's a pay disparity within India versus US, and with your degree and the clinical versus research, all of that is important to keep in mind. So, yeah, I think I'm at the end of my discussion. I have asked all the questions which was required, and I hope we've covered most of the important aspects of applying to AUD or PhD in the US. If there are any other questions, you can email me, and I'll provide any of their email ID accordingly, which whoever might help you out with the questions that you have, or you can add the questions below. Thank you so much.
Hello, you've reached the end of this really long video and I hope all your queries are answered. If not, leave your questions down in the comment box or you can DM me on Instagram and I will connect you with those who might help you with these questions. I hope your dreams of becoming an audiologist in the US are fulfilled, and this was a really long discussion, a 3-hour long discussion. I had to edit it and make sure that it's easy to digest and it's easily put on YouTube. If you have any other queries, you can always reach out to me, and thank you so much for watching this video. Bye!